Good morning, everyone. We'll call this council meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chamber is open for public attendance in person. However, councilors and members may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you had submitted a comment request to administration prior to the meeting, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments or concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, the lines will be unmuted. If you'd like to speak, please state your name. Individuals will be allotted 5 minutes to speak or 10 minutes for a group as per our procedural bylaw. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception that numerous callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with the call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and our social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendings that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per Municipal Government Act, Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. We have Reeve Link participating remotely, so we will modify, or should we, I know Reeve Link usually uses eScribe, but we'll just do a roll call vote and find out if we're going to use. Go ahead.
Deputy Reeve Clausen, I believe Councillor Bigger is also on the line now.
Is she? Okay.
So maybe just a roll call vote.
Okay. So I'll do a roll call vote. We'll go around the room. Councillor Priest.
I'm here.
Councillor Bigger.
Here.
And Councillor Bigger, are you able to use eScribe or do you want to do voice vote?
No, I don't have I didn't sign up for eScribe yet. I can try a little later on.
Okay. We'll just do a roll call vote then. Councillor Reichert?
Here.
Deputy Clausen's here. Reeve Link?
Good morning, everybody.
Councillor Kester? Here. Councillor Larson?
Here.
That's everything. So we have an agenda in front of us. Is there any additions or deletions? Councillor Kester?
I'd like to add an in-camera session on campgrounds on East Wheatland.
Okay. Did everybody hear that? Campgrounds East Wheatland. Okay. Anything else? We'll add that under 10 closed section because there's not numbers on each one, but it'll be in there. Anything further from anyone?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. I'll have to go around the room again. Councillor Priest?
In favor.
Councillor Bigger?
In favor?
Councillor Reichert?
In favor.
Councillor Clausen? In favor. Reeve Link?
In favor.
Councillor Kester?
In favor.
Councillor Larson?
In favor.
And that's carried. So we have, do the notice of motion first, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
In our package, there's a notice of motion 2.1. There's no discussion on this. Does there have to be explanation to go forward or? Sorry, I'm unfamiliar with, I haven't had to go through this before.
Through the chair, the notice of motion, the section under the procedure bylaw is just 94 to 98. So notice of motion must include the complete precise text of the motion to be considered, the date of which the council meeting at which the motion will be made, purpose and background of the information. Motion precisely as stated in the notice of motion will then appear on the applicable council agenda. So yeah, it just needs to be in there and that's it.
Okay, so it checks all the boxes. There's no motion required by council. It will come to the next meeting. And then we'll move on to we have the public hearing now, correct? Okay, so I'll do a motion to recess council meeting.
No motion to recess, but just a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, I'll make a motion to call the public hearing to the order. Call the question. Councillor Priest.
In favor?
Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Reeves Link.
In favor.
I'm in favor. Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
Good morning. As per section 192 of the procedural bylaw 2024-24, the public hearing will be conducted in the following order. Staff report by administration, presentation by the applicant, presentations by the public in support of the proposal, presentations by the opposition of the proposal, rebuttal representation by the applicant limited only to the comments read or heard in opposition to the proposal, final questions of administration, council motion to close the public hearing. The applicant will have, people are looking at me, will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Any individuals supporting or opposing the proposal will have up to 5 minutes to speak, and any groups of individuals will have up to 10 minutes to speak. The applicant will have a maximum of 10 minutes to present the rebuttal. If there are any questions relating to this process, please refer to the procedure bylaw. Can administration verify that the notice of public hearing was certified in accordance with the Municipal Government Act?
Yes, it was.
Are there any written submissions that are not in the public package?
No.
Anyone coming to the mic, we request that please state your name and the address for the record. Please proceed.
Good morning, Jessica Russell with Planning and Development Services, presenting bylaw 2024-31, which proposes to redesignate a plus or minus 64 hectare portion of land from the Agriculture General District to a proposed direct control district. The lands are located approximately 6 kilometers northwest of the town of Strathmore, 800 meters north of the intersection of Range Road 262 and Township Road 244. The application proposes the development of a data center for cryptocurrency mining operations. The development includes a light industrial facility for computer equipment and use of an existing gas-fired power plant for power generation. The site for the data center is approximately 0.92 hectares or 2.3 acres. The development area is reflected in Cell 1 of the proposed direct control district, and Cell 2 is proposed to remain as agricultural lands. The development area is accessed by an existing approach from Range Road 262. An approach and inspection may be required at the development permit stage. Electricity will be generated on-site using natural gas-fired electrical generators delivered by a pipeline to the adjacent development area from the existing compressor facility. Water and wastewater servicing for the field office is proposed to be provided through holding tanks for use by site operators. The proposal is consistent with the applicable statutory and non-statutory plans. Section 3.7.2.6 of the MDP considers transportation and access as a component of commercial industrial applications. The application includes a conceptual TIA assessing the potential traffic impacts from the proposed development. The TIA notes that traffic levels are expected to increase during daylight hours for construction of the development and will return to approximate local rural traffic levels post-construction. The conceptual TIA was reviewed by the county's third-party technical consultants at McElhaney. The technical review noted that there were no objections to the assessment, recommending the applicant provide a traffic accommodation strategy to facilitate construction, which may be requested at the development permit stage. The proposal is consistent with the criteria listed in 3.7.2.7 of the MDP, which requires commercial applications to demonstrate that there will be no significant adverse impacts on the natural environment. The application includes a conceptual stormwater management plan, which addresses drainage around the development area, and an environmental protection plan, which identifies potential impacts to the environment and outlines mitigation measures. The submitted plans were reviewed by the county's third-party technical consultants, and the review noted that stormwater and environmental considerations are appropriately considered and includes advisory comments. Finally, Section 3.7.2.8 of the MDP considers the cumulative impacts of commercial development. The daily operation of the data center is not expected to create any additional dust, odor, noise, or lighting. However, there may be some development impacts during the construction of the facility, including a temporary light tower and dust from traffic. The application proposes the use of water trucks to dampen the gravel road to reduce dust if traffic safety is impacted. The typical concerns regarding the development impacts, including dust, odor, noise, and lighting, are mitigated by the location of the data center on the parcel, which is approximately 590 meters from Range Road 262. The use of an on-site generator limits noise and prevents the energy consumption of the development to impact neighboring properties. The application proposes a new direct control district to accommodate the data center. The proposed DC district includes agricultural uses to reflect the existing uses on the parcel in Cell 2 and adds data processing center as a discretionary use in Cell 1. Any change in the intensity of the data center requires the application and approval of a separate development permit. Notice of the public hearing was sent in accordance with the MGA. No submissions were received. Administration recommends approval as per the motions provided. This concludes the presentation of bylaw 2024-31, and I am available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none. Does the applicant wish to speak?
No.
No. Is there any presentations by public in support of the proposal? Going once? I got to do this 3 times. Is there any presentation by the public in support of the proposal? Going twice. Any presentations by public in support of the proposal, even online or on the phone? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Is there any presentations by the public in opposition of the proposal? Second time, is there any presentations by the public in opposition to this proposal? Third and final time, is there any presentations by the public in opposition to this proposal? Don't feel there's a need for a rebuttal, but I'll ask if the applicant wants to rebut. No. Any final questions of administration? Go ahead. Turn your mic on, please.
Question on noise. It says it's going to use an existing power generation. So I'm thinking it's a gas compressor station. Is it currently in use as a gas compressor? Is it excess power, or is it going to start all over again and create?
It is an existing facility. I'm not sure on the current operation levels of that facility.
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council for clarification, it was operating. I'm not sure of the state it isn't currently, if it's still operational, but they did take it over and go through a Alberta Utility Commission's approval to continue the use of it rather than having it discontinued to be able to fire as the energy for the data center. So whether it's in continuous operation, we're not sure. If the applicants wanted to speak to that, they could answer the question directly.
That's not as important to me as when it was a gas compressor site, the residents have no say in the noise. And I see there's 11 things within a mile. If the thing is not regulated by AUC anymore, the noise could be our responsibility, and they would have to keep it up. So do we have any mechanisms to make sure this thing is at least as quiet as a new installation would be? You know, things deteriorate with age, and if this one isn't being used anymore, it's got to be getting old.
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, it isn't something we would address at land use. They are separate, even though they have AUC approval for the gas fired thing. The land use is separate for the data center. And the only time we could address the noise and any upgrades to it would be at the development permit stage. We don't have I don't believe there was a noise study done at this stage, at the land use stage.
Would appreciate if staff keep that in the back of their mind when.
Yes, certainly.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I have a question about, it mentions in the environmental assessment part about end of life and reclamation. Do we know how long this kind of a operation would be operational? Is there a finite time that it would operate, or is it kind of a?
I don't believe so. I would have to defer to the applicant for that.
The applicant can answer, correct, right at this time? Yeah, if you want to come up and answer some of those questions, that'd be great. If you're able to. No? They're conferring. Thank you. If you come forward, please state your name and who you work for.
Good morning, Samantha Brown with Sabre Energy. I'm a consultant on behalf of Great Lake Power. So the operational period for this particular facility is expected to be 5 to 8 years, and then decommissioning upon that. And also just to clarify on the noise, a noise impact assessment has been completed for the project as well.
Okay, thank you.
While she's there, I have one more question. I understand that these generate a lot of heat. Is there, what kind of mitigation strategies?
Bring one of the technical guys up instead.
Information is helpful. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bryce Dawson. I work for RWDI Air Inc. in Calgary. We completed the air quality assessment and the noise impact assessment for this facility. To your point about heat generation, so all the data center, all the servers are located within sort of something similar to a CCAN, and they all have fans to cool the equipment during operation. And for your information, those fans, because we know they generate a lot of noise, those are also included in the noise impact assessments. We want to make sure that we're controlling the heat and making sure we understand the noise.
And I have one question. I live close to this. I can see it from my backyard and I can hear when the phone rings over there, which doesn't bother me at all. As a compressor station, so is a compressor station not operable right now and it's just going to turn into this, or are you taking gas from this to supply you? I don't know.
Yeah, so we will be using excess heat from the compressor station to help generate power. When we do our assessment, we understand, well, we know that the compressor station is regulated through the Alberta Energy Regulator. The data center is regulated through the Alberta Utilities Commission. Both of them have noise regulations that are, very much in lockstep and have been for a number of years, so that the criteria for both is the same. It is a cumulative assessment that has to consider both. Now, since we're assuming that this is going to continue to operate, we have assumed that it will operate at full capacity all the time. So we actually went out there, had the operators run all the equipment, took measures to incorporate into our assessment. So we assume that everything is running all the time, and it still has to comply with the limits so that it's not beyond what would be reasonably expected for noise generation at an industrial facility or light industrial facility like this.
Okay. So yeah, the compressor station is going to keep running as a compressor station. You're going to use some of the excess heat and some of the gas to generate. Okay, that's what I needed to hear. Anybody else? Go ahead.
So if this was operated by Ember Resources, so it was an operating oil and gas facility at some point in time. So do you now own this facility, or who's going to be responsible for the ultimate reclamation if it's 5 to 8 years? I mean, this will have to be reclaimed the way it was before Ember was there.
Yeah, so I can't speak to that. So I'm not sure if you want to come up and address any commercial agreement that's been made with Ember for gas, but that's not within my purview.
Welcome back.
Sorry, I did have to just clarify with them. So the existing gas compressor site is still owned and operated by Ember. So they will be responsible for any end-of-life activities. If that compressor site were to close down before the Bitcoin site, we would have to close down the Bitcoin site as well. Great Lake will be responsible for any decommissioning and reclamation of the gas generators and Bitcoin facility itself.
It's right adjacent to the site, to the east, right? So it's not
Yep,
the same,
that's
it's
right.
not the same footprint. Okay, perfect. Any questions from the people on the phone? Counselors on the phone? No? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. I'll make, if no further questions, I'll make the motion to close the public hearing. I'll go around the table. Councilor Laprise,
In favor?
Councilor Bigger,
In favor?
Councilor Eichert,
In favor.
Reeve Link,
In favor.
I'm in favor. Councilor Kester,
In favor.
Councilor Lowerson.
In favor.
Okay. So we're back in regular council meeting, and in our agenda package on page 7, we have some options. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council move first reading of bylaw 2024-31. This being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate plus or minus 64.75 hectares within Northwest 26 west of 4th from agricultural general to direct control district, as shown on the attached Schedule B forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you. A motion before us. Any questions? I'll call the question. Councilor Laprise,
I'm in favor.
Councilor Bigger,
In favor?
Councilor Eichert,
In favor.
Reeve Link,
In favor.
I'm in favor. Councilor Kester,
In favor.
Councilor Larson.
In favor.
And that's carried.
I'll move that council moves second reading of bylaw 2024-31.
Motion before us. Any discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Councilor Laprise,
In favor?
Councilor Bigger,
In favor?
Councilor Eichert,
In favor.
Reeve Link,
In favor.
Councilor Kester,
In favor.
Councilor Lowerson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's carried.
I'll move that council grants permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2024-31.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. Councilor Laprise,
In favor?
Councilor Bigger,
In favor?
Councilor Eichert,
In favor.
Reeve Link,
In favor.
Councilor Kester,
In favor.
Councilor Lowerson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried.
I'll move that council moves third reading of bylaw 2024-31.
Third reading's on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Councilor Laprise,
In favor?
Councilor Bigger,
In favor?
Councilor Eichert,
In favor.
Reeve Link,
In favor.
Councilor Kester,
In favor.
Councilor Lowerson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to bylaw 2024-06. This is just for a third reading only. Whenever you're ready to proceed.
Good morning, Council. Taylor Felt with the Planning and Development Services team, here to present bylaw 2024-06 for Council's consideration of third reading. The bylaw received first and second reading at Council's meeting on October 15th, and a motion to hold third and final reading was made. However, the motion was lost. I'll just provide a brief recap of the staff report here. Referring to the diagram found on page 39 of Council's agenda package, the subject lands are located 5.5 kilometers northeast of the hamlet of Clunie, immediately southeast of the intersection of Township Road 224 and Range Road 213. The application proposes to redesignate 32 acres within Northwest 22-22-21 west of the 4th Meridian from the Agricultural General District to the Natural Resource Extraction and Processing District in order to allow for the future development of aggregate extraction and processing operation on site. The lands not impacted by the extraction operation are proposed to remain as Agricultural General District and continue to be used for agricultural production. The municipal development plan outlines some broader policy implications. Aggregate extraction is considered under section 3.8, which is the natural resource development section, with the primary objective to ensure that natural resources are managed safely and effectively, and that extraction activities are respectful of surrounding land uses. Policy 3.8.2.1 requires strategies to minimize the impact that natural resource development may have on infrastructure, the natural environment, and resident quality of life. And policy 3.8.2.5 requires natural resource applications to demonstrate that they will have no adverse impacts on the natural environment and mitigate any anticipated impacts if there are proposed impacts there. Along with the other requirements in the county's land use bylaw, technical studies were provided in order to address any environmental concerns and to provide any mitigation strategies to minimize the impact to adjacent residents. Noted throughout the staff report, these studies and plans generally confirm that the development can proceed without negative impacts on the natural environment or to adjacent landowners. However, additional reports and further details are required and can be addressed at the development permit stage in accordance with the county's land use bylaw. Landowners within 1 mile of the subject site and the proposed haul route, along with other interested parties, were notified of the application when it was received by the county, and then again prior to the public hearing in October. Comments provided have been included starting on page 47 of the agenda package. And administration is recommending that council grant third reading of bylaw 2024-06. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for administration? Seeing none.
Move that council moves third reading of bylaw 2024-06, this being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate plus or minus 32 hectares from agricultural general district to natural resource extraction processing district, as shown on the attached Schedule A, forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Custer.
I have a comment.
Okay.
That's why I waited till now. I know both of the people involved in this, and I know them to such an extent I would consider them friends. It makes it tough to make a decision. So in my own mind, I got to back off and say, if I didn't know them, is this good? So when I back off, I don't know if there's enough, and I know we have the development permit stage to come, enough safety concerns in there to protect that business that's there. I know the outfit that is going to go in and develop it is a reputable outfit, and I'll know they'll do everything they can to mitigate it. But then again, if I act like I don't know them, I still think we need to have better controls at the development stage. And there was one other thing during the public hearing when one of the people in the audience says they did not get that package that council got that was in our package on, we usually get it on Thursdays before the meeting. And the answer was, well, it was public, it was on the internet. Now, that's a good thing to say to me. I should be smart enough to get it. But the general public doesn't know that every Thursday these packages come out. And I would think in the future, maybe anybody that's got a public hearing like this on their case or a final decision on their, in the notification area, maybe they could be included and get that council package sent out to them. It's just another email address. I think we could do that for our residents. And yeah, I just wanted everyone to know that, because people do know that I know these people and I have to, it's just part of the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question on process then. If someone submits a letter of concern in the notification area, do they not get the times of like when it's going to be brought forward? Like I see people here today about first, second, and third reading of something, and they were residents of our people. There was definitely the applicants and the landowner was here. So I'm just wondering if other people know.
Through the chair, when the public notification sent out in the mail, it does include the date of the public hearing, and it does ask for any comments to be provided in advance of the public hearing for council's consideration.
Is that by email or a letter or both?
That is sent by snail mail to adjacent landowners.
Okay. Yeah. When we have somebody that addresses a concern, do we collect their email so we can respond to them faster? If they have an email, I guess.
The notices that is sent out only includes an email to reply to. So generally, with this application, for example, the adjacent landowners provided their feedback physically at the county office, and then further communication was done by email and telephone.
Okay. I just want to make sure, and I guess if maybe we should add it to committee of the whole meeting in the future and discuss different ways to make sure that we're trying to cover any gaps that are there. I know in some municipalities I've seen, and I've mentioned this before, where there's a stake pounded into the ground and the little things up says it's going to be developed, notice of development or something like that, and then it covers a different angle for somebody that doesn't have anything. I don't, just some ideas, but we can discuss that in the future. Is there a motion on the floor? Any further questions? I just got notified that we have, everybody's into eScribe now. Is everybody in the room able to go onto eScribe so I don't have to do a roll call? We can try it.
Yep.
Is everybody good with that?
On.
We're all on? Okay. So I will call the question and we will be using eScribe.
Just one more comment, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
If you don't mind.
Sorry.
I agree with Councillor Castor that I think there are some things that can be addressed at the DP stage. But I do feel like the applicant is being very cooperative with the landowner in trying to do as much as they can. I mean, when they talk about limiting their operations during the greenhouse business, their prime time of operating, I think that's a pretty good indication that they're willing to cooperate with them. But I agree that there's some things we can do at the DP stage that to protect the landowner there.
I just clarify that development permit will be coming to us at MPC at some point in the future.
Through the chair, that's correct. Yes, these are discretionary uses.
Perfect. Motion on the floor. I'll call the question and it's up on eScribe. Please vote. Need some voting music. Like RMA. Oh. That's okay. We're waiting. We're waiting for one person remote, right? Yeah. If there's problems, just let us know and we can revert back the other way.
I believe it's ReveLink that we're waiting on.
Okay.
Yeah, and my internet is spinning. I am in favor. I'm not sure if we're able to add that to the electronic vote.
Okay. That's carried
I
then.
anticipate it
Oh,
will
hang on,
pop
I haven't
up
seen the other
any
ones.
moment.
I haven't seen how everybody else has voted, so I can't say that yet. So that's carried. So we have 5-4-2 against. So that's carried. So we'll move on to bylaw 2024-33 Master of Schedules Fee Bylaw.
Morning, Council. Joel here from Financial Services, here to walk through this proposed bylaw change. I won't go through each item individually, but just kind of a general overview. A lot of these items are kind of just general housekeeping changes as well as kind of noted in the report. What I'll do is go to just kind of to walk through some of the overall changes. As in a lot of prior bylaw amendments, what we've done to try and allow for ease of following the changes is this table that just shows the new items in green, the prior data that's kind of to be taken away in red font there that's stricken out. And then I believe there's 4 pages in total of changes. However, a lot of those are kind of grouped together in just kind of overall, like I said, housekeeping items. For example, you can see here the water and wastewater services. We're just showing a change in the fees, and this is as per the prior resolution from council that was made back at the end of 2023, I believe, that had wanted a 2-step increase, a 7% increase in February of 2024, and then an additional 7% in January of 2025. So this is just following that already approved resolution with the new rates and values based on that. And then Public Works, again, there's just some changes to their proposed fees. A lot of these are just to be in line with other bylaws. The major changes that you'll see in terms of like the volume here are just in like the safety codes area. But a lot of them are, if I go, for example, to these green ones, these additions of new permits, permit cancellation, all of these type of fee structures, and they're just kind of done identically in all of the different areas like plumbing and electrical. And so those are all consistent across the different areas as proposed additions. Another one that we proposed changing was this tax certificate, including an administrative fee for those that are invoiced. The report does talk about a little bit of detail in that. A lot of our clients or customers that use the tax certificate process are all using our digital one now, other than, I believe it's only 2 institutions that are. And so we just hear nothing but good things in terms of that digital process. And so this just allows for the older process where we get billed through AR is a little bit more work internally. And so it just recognizes that, but still leaves it as an option. So that's kind of a summary of some of the overall major changes, and myself and staff are available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for highlighting the changes. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Custer.
Go back down to these water rates. I don't know how much water people use, but what would a family monthly, how many cubic meters would they use? Just a guess. I don't need a.
Good morning, Brad Bullock through the chair. I believe, and I hope I'm not misspeaking, that we see about 7 cubes a month from a typical family. But
so the monthly flat rate is $32 per month. At $3 a meter, that means it's close to 11 meters cubes they're buying with that $32 at the present price. So really what they're paying is in excess right now of $6 a cubic meter. Does that make sense? We're paying $2.92 for a cubic meter, plus we're paying $32 flat fee. That flat fee would buy you 11 cubes. So if you use 11 cubes, you're paying $64 a month, right?
through the chair, my estimation of 7 cubes a month is an estimate. We'd have to review to see if.
Yeah, I realize it. So I would say the 11 cubes should pretty well cover it. So if you're using 11 cubes, could be the average family. They're paying $32 for the flat and $3 for the cube. So that's 32 times 30 plus 32 is $64. Divided by 11 cubes is $6 a cubic meter. So the cost from, I'm not on the WRC anymore, what is the water rate this year that you're charging municipalities?
I believe it's $6.15 a cube,
So they're
and it's
all-
will be going up.
Yeah, so they are paying. The way I look at it, they are paying what we are paying for the water. I know maybe we want to collect extra, but we got to word it differently if we're going to use the money for reserves, or for water infrastructure or something. But I'm adamant that they are paying the full price within a quarter of what the county is being charged for that water.
I think this is something we should add to a committee of the whole meeting to go through this, because there's a lot there. I could disagree with you and lay it out, but I don't think now's the time or the place. Because we have infrastructure in each of those hamlets on top of what, if it's supplied by WRC. So there's the basic cost for that operation plus ours. And I believe our base rate doesn't include any water. It's just basically for replacement and hard costs. And then the pure cubic meter rate, I believe from how we went through it before, was your operational cost. But we definitely should get that out there and get some messaging out the right way. When we were at RMA, I did hear the Premier speak, and she was speaking about the big urban centers and basically saying, run this as a utility. Make sure that you recover your costs, because don't come to us to bail you out. If you're not covering your cost as a utility, it's not up to the taxpayer. So either way, the bill has to be paid. So, but definitely something we can break down so we get the right messaging out there, I think, in the future. Any thoughts from, go ahead.
And through the chair, just a correction, Joel, our finance manager, corrected me that they did a review recently, and it was about 10 to 12 cubes per household is the average. So I was low on that.
Pretty close, so I put you on the spot.
Go ahead.
I agree with Scott. The way it's looking here, to me, when I look at it, it's water services, water. You're paying for water. If that $32 is for infrastructure costs, and we draw on that reserve to fix, then that's a different deal, and we should word it differently. That should be someplace else. I know it goes on the water bill, but people look at their water bill and they see it's $68. They don't know. I think some clarification should be there.
Go ahead, Councilor Eichert.
Just a question to administration. The flat rate, that does go into a reserve to each one of the different communities. It probably should be pointed out better than that, because that's what I know it does, because we do not want to get into the same situation that the city of Calgary is in where 50 years they collected a flat rate, and then when the main water line broke, the repairs were all coming out of another fund. So each one of these, I would assume that each one of these funds for each one of the hamlets has got a reserve capital fund for infrastructure, utility infrastructure.
So through the REIV, just to clarify, it is the ones that are designated as capital levies. So that for example, the very last one in the wastewater services section, those are the ones that go to a designated capital reserve for that particular hamlet or community. And then if it just says like wastewater flat rate, those actually contribute to the annual operating. So the flat rates, unless it's essentially, if it says capital, then that's going to a designated reserve for infrastructure and other things in the future.
And just through the chair, so the way we do this every year and the way we transfer it away is that it's actually quite simplistic how our accounting system, like software, just kind of delegates all the capital revenue to a certain general ledger code, and then the other two get recognized into operating revenue. And then at the end of the year, at year end, what Joel and the finance team do is they just take that GL number, they transfer it into that reserve, so they just do an offsetting entry. So it's super easy to check, and Joel's got some checks and balances to make sure that amount does get transferred in.
But I still think it'd be great to bring this back to when you guys are prepared to lay it out. And if we need to do and tweak any changes for different things that council wants, so we can stand behind what we did, our decisions, for sure. Go ahead, Councillor Kester.
Okay, I have a memory, I don't know how accurate it is, but at one time it was a 10% thing that we would put into the reserves. I don't know if that's still current or not. But when you think about these flat rate, and that's for operations, and we're charging $6 for operations. I would hope the operations for that community is not $6 a cube, because it was way cheaper when WRC was doing it. When WRC was doing it, we were actually paying less for the water, and they were doing the operations. So there has to be some work on that for clarity. If we're gonna charge a flat fee for operations, that should be easy to figure out. There's contract is this, and divide it by that, and that's what the flat fee should be. If the flat fees for capital, call it capital and put it in a different line item. But we got to be transparent on this, because these people are paying a lot of money for water.
So through the chair, it is broken out on the bill, the flat rate, the variable rate, and then the capital levy as well. But administration definitely has no problem bringing that back to a future meeting. Just put it in a motion for council and direct administration to do that. We'll bring it back for future discussion.
Maybe a committee of the whole. Or...
Well, let's deal with the fees bylaw first, and if someone wants to put a motion forward to add it to committee of the whole, we can.
I have another question on the fee schedule. I see that we've added in a demolition fee for a permit. That's a new thing, is that right? And I'm just curious around the thinking on that.
Morning.
Good morning, Rachel Hansen-Beaton with Planning and Development Services. Demolition was always in there, we just moved it to its own line item. Residential is the 250 and commercial industrial is the 350.
So it used to be under just a building permit. Demolition would have been one of the like items in brackets.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? On page 137, we have several options for resolutions.
I'll move the council approve first reading of master schedule of fees, bylaw 2024-33.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question via e-scribe once again. That's carried. It worked like a charm. More motions. I'll move approve second reading of fees bylaw 2024-33. Any discussion? Call the question. That's carried.
Move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2024-32.
33.
33.
Sun's in your eyes. Motion on the
That desk.
yeah. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. And that's carried.
I'll move that council approve third and final reading of bylaw 2024-33.
Third and final readings on the floor. Any questions? I'll call the question. And that's carried. Oh, and the previous vote was carried unanimously for third and final for the public. Just council, I think we should take a 10-minute break because we have a 10 o'clock appointment, give everybody a chance to.
Just before that break, was there that additional motion?
Oh, yes.
For the utility rates?
From discussion, yes.
I'll make a motion that staff present at the next committee of the whole what was discussed during this previous motion.
Utility rate discussion.
Good enough, capture.
Yes, could it just be more broad, like a future committee of the whole? I think their next committee of the whole is on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at staff's discretion.
Okay.
That's good enough. Okay. Motion on the floor for having utilities brought forward to future committee of the whole meeting. Any questions? Clarification? No. I will call the question. Shannon's just typing it out. No pressure. Question is up. Please vote. And that is carried. We'll take a 10-minute recess. 2 minutes. We'll resume council. We have 10 o'clock appointment, and we have a brief introduction, I believe, from our Department of Bylaw and Enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris from administration here. So just to introduce, just like to introduce Colby Peterson. Colby is a fourth-year justice student at Mount Royal University, and he is currently doing a practicum with us. So he's been with us since September. He'll be with us till just probably the first or second week of December. So as part of his program, it was a practicum placement, and the university reached out to see, as Colby is a local Strathmore individual, to see what the interest level would be of Wheatland County in participating with the practicum program, and it's been a great success so far, and it's something we're hoping to maybe look forward to in the future to continue on with more practicum students as we move along. So anyways, yeah, this is Colby, and we're teaching him as much as we can and exposing him to as much as we can. So hopefully he's having a good experience. So.
Well, welcome, and great to have you here for a learning experience. And I believe at other departments we're doing practicum stuff as well, which is good because we have a rather large professional team that helps. If we can train other people, that's fantastic. And it's free labor, so we're good with that. That word can be used in many different ways. We have today a 10 o'clock appointment from Staff Sergeant Will Gosh from Strathmore RCMP Detachment. Welcome, sir. Make sure the green light has to be on. There you go.
Morning, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update on our policing activities within the county area as part of our, I guess, regular updates for our community safety programs. For simplicity, all of my comments be through the CAO to the chair and the rest of council for the duration of the presentation. I believe there are 2 reports in here, but I'll speak mainly on our Q2 report, which is where we're at most recently throughout the summer. And I'll explain more of where our priorities are at and what our measures are for this year with respect to our policing activities within our rural areas. Starting off with our Q1. Sorry, our 3 priorities for the year. We've maintained the 3 priorities for community safety as we did last year, focusing first on property crimes, that being break and enters, theft of motor vehicles, and theft from motor vehicles. Our second focus is road safety to maintain and reduce overall reportable collisions as well as injury collisions. And our third priority is community engagement, which remains very important to us with respect to meeting people where they are, getting feedback from the community, but also that those positive relations that help us deal with crime and to ensure that we can keep people informed of what we're doing out there to help keep them safe. The measures, as I've got laid out for our property crimes, we're looking to maintain where our levels are or seek reductions from our 6-year averages. Now, the reason why I selected a 6-year average as far as our crime statistics are concerned is that's kind of what's our norms around here. That's something what you can come to expect based on what our historical crime reporting is. It's not to say that any level of crime is acceptable, but I think it's important that our elected officials and the public are also aware of what are our historical highs and lows and where are we at right now to kind of give them a better idea of where we're at. Another reason why I chose our 6-year averages as opposed to last year, for those of you may remember, I had 5-year averages. Through our COVID area, we had 2 years of artificially low numbers for a variety of reasons. So that's a bit of an anomaly in our crime reporting. I want to make sure that once we get through those 2 years, then we can shrink down our averages a little bit better and then we can have a little more tight numbers that we can report to you going forward. But until that happens, I just want to make sure we don't have any artificial anomalies that are affecting what we're reporting on. To achieve these goals, we've got a number of programs in place. Our habitual offender management program is something that's been highly effective for us. Through Q2, we had 12 habitual offenders that we were monitoring, which includes at least one problematic property. As you can see, there were some results as far as what our checks did yield for the most part. What we're seeing in the program as we carried forward, essentially since my arrival here nearly 3 years ago, or just over 3 years ago, is that we do see a lot of our offenders either in compliance or they're leaving our area or they're finding themselves in prison, but we're seeing more and more that we're finding our offenders in compliance, and we're trying to really set a bit of a tone in our area that if you want to be a law-abiding citizen, and to contribute to our communities, we're happy to have you, but if not, then perhaps this isn't the area for you. We just want to make sure that we're reminding them of that every time we check on them. So I can say that the programs has yielded us the most success as far as keeping crime levels low, particularly with rural crimes and in our urban areas. So we're going to continue with that to make sure that we're going to continue to see those results. Persons who perhaps may not be on court enforceable conditions, but they are persons who have been known to be harmful to communities. We call that, we fit them into our persons of interest program that our members are aware of. Again, it's just a matter to make sure that we're reminding them to maintain a law-abiding lifestyle. We do see people who are in our habitual offender management program once they're off of or they've completed court enforceable conditions that we kind of keep tabs on them. We checking out on them every once in a while, hopefully that they've maintained that law-abiding lifestyle. A large portion of our theft from motor vehicles, in fact, in this quarter, I think both theft from vehicles in this quarter for Wheatland County were stolen license plates. To try to mitigate that, we've initiated a program with the Security Scoop program. We started that more than a year ago. It's still active. We've maintained the locations where we have it here, where the locations where you can find them free of charge within Strathmore and all of our dealerships, the detachment, as well as at the Langdon detachment as well. Simply put, it's a security screw that's not easily tampered with. It takes a lot of time to remove them if you're going to do it without the bit, and you're going to do a lot of damage in the meantime, and it increases the likelihood of being caught. At these locations, you have one installed for free. You keep one of the screws from your license plate in your glove box. When you decide to sell, maybe within a week in advance, pop by any of those locations. They'll swap back out the screw for you, and off you go. In fact, at least 2 of the dealerships in Strathmore have picked this program up on their own, and they purchased their own, and I think they've made that even just across the board a selling feature for all of their vehicles. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do to ensure that we're minimizing that type of crime. Stolen license plates, it's an inconvenience for the average Joe citizen, where you have to replace your plate, report it to the police, or sometimes either you get a phone call late at night from the police asking you where your plate is, or you might be pulled over because the plate's been swapped out on your car for another that's been stolen. So we're hoping to mitigate that as well. Aside from the danger it does pose to our members roadside if they're not aware that the vehicle itself is stolen and it's a license plate itself that hasn't been reported yet. Typically, persons engaged in license plate theft, they'll find a license plate that's similar to the vehicle that they've stolen, and they use stolen license plates to continue along a crime spree. Is usually what the reason for the stolen license plates. We offer CPTED, so crime prevention through environmental design, to anyone who asks for it. I know that our peace officer partners are also engaged in that program as well, but we offer that hopefully in advance. But at times, should someone be broken into, we can offer advice and guidance on how to ensure that people are not becoming victims of crime going forward. We make sure we focus on hotspot patrols, so we make sure that our members are visible in the rural areas. And again, largely as a result of our Watch Clerk program, that is possible. Our members are out in the communities as much as we can. The graphics that you see here, as this is a rural policing report, I've given you what Rocky View County, our portion of Rocky View County, and our portion of Wheatland County looks like. Then what you see in the graphic here is the red bars on the graph. That's our historical highs for each quarter. The blue is the historical lows. As you can see in Q2 for break and enters, we're not at the high. We're a little bit slightly reduced from our historical averages. And I've given more information later in the report to what those break and enters involved. Theft of motor vehicles, again, we're close to our historical lows over 6 years. And theft from motor vehicles, while it appears to be slightly elevated, a couple of them, like I said, at least 2 of them are license plate thefts. So as you can see in this portion of the report, the first area is our stats compared to last year. So break and enters, up from 2 to 6. Again, into more of what those were involved in the report. But we're, regardless of the slight elevation from, compared to last year, we're still down 25% from the same time frame over a 6-year average. So if people are asking questions, then we're below the norms for what we would normally experience over that 6-year period. And again, I won't go through too much detail. I know council is busy, but I've left the specifics of each of the crime trends that we're seeing in those areas, of the 3 selected areas, as reported in here. Theft of vehicles, I've got another graphic here as well. It just shows the breakdown of what types of vehicles are being stolen. And for the thefts that occurred with theft of motor vehicles in Wheatland County, the 2 of them that were stolen, both of them are pickup trucks. Traffic safety, I've given some numbers here with respect to what our enforcement measures have been through Q2. We have our check stop program, which remains in effect, our bar walk program. Our members will frequent licensed premises just to check and make sure that there's everyone's having a good time, but also hopefully we're reminding people to have a plan for how they're going to get home. You've got graphics here for collision comparisons. As you'll note that we've had fairly steep reductions in reportable collisions. Not that this may be a significant factor or not, but as a bit of a disclaimer here, that the reportable collision amount rose from $2,000 to $5,000 for reportable collisions, which may have had a small trend effect, but I don't anticipate that to be a large contributor considering, we had one of our police cars that had a broken lens on a headlight, and that was almost a $3,000 fix. So, things aren't fixed these days, they're mainly replaced. I've also laid out what our collision factors were with Wheatland County. In Q2, we did see a slight elevation in our injury collisions, and that's mainly attributed to driving too fast on gravel roads. But we do find our intersection offenses where people are turning when they shouldn't be, proceeding on stop signs and when they shouldn't be, of course, on county roads or on highways as they intersect. There are higher speed type of collisions which do result in injuries. Regardless, our roads are still safe. Our community engagement, our members are out doing school visits. As you can see, I've laid out a few of the activities our members were involved in the rural areas. What you'll see here is our members. We had 2 members, in fact, new Canadians that were giving a presentation to exchange students that wanted to learn a little bit more about policing. So they showed up in their red surges and talked about their experiences immigrating to Canada and integrating in society and what they've chosen as a profession. So that was kind of an interesting experience. We have a number of community groups that are involved in our community liaison program. Again, that's to maintain communication between community groups and the policing services. If people have questions from these groups, or if it's a matter of access and opportunity, sometimes we have crimes reported, but a lot of times we're able to provide some good guidance and keep people informed about what we're doing in the communities. Quickly touching, the capture program, role capture program is active. Anyone can go in and sign up. Just a matter of if people have a business or home that has video surveillance. It just lets us know that they have it. All the details are here. It's not something the police live monitor. People can voluntarily sign up. They can provide us footage if they want to. But again, it is very convenient and helpful for us if we know which areas, depending on where a crime scene is at, have video surveillance. So for us on the back side of this program, it's almost like a Google map. It pops up pins where people have video surveillance. If a crime occurs in a certain area, we'll know right away who we can contact. And with a lot of the home surveillance systems these days, someone can send us a video even from work. And we've had some success with that in the past. I would highly recommend getting the Alberta RCMP app. It's got all of these programs in there and more. It includes the online crime reporting. It includes the crime mapping for the area. It includes media releases that might be that that are being released. It includes the links to Crime Stoppers, and you can sign up for Rave Alerts, which is an alert system that can send a text message to people's phones. Let's say, for instance, if we had a certain vehicle we were looking for, a crime alert can go out to whoever signs up in that area. I've given some year-to-date calls for service comparisons, and that essentially concludes the report. I've provided some crime stats along with risk reporting as well as a Q1 report, but again, I focused on Q2, which kind of brings us up to date of where we are right now. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thanks for the report. It's always enlightening. Your screw program is lovely. It'd be nice if some other detachments would jump on that bandwagon. Drumheller knows nothing of this. But I was just recently at the Drumheller RCMP held a town hall meeting in Dallin, and the information is very similar to here. So your what did you call it? Your habitual offender program. I heard very similar things from them, that there's people in their program that are saying, you know, I'm just going to move because I'm tired of the surveillance. So I think that's very good, what you guys are doing there. So I think you should be commended for that. And then do you guys have town hall meetings at all or not?
We do, and we've held them here in the past. Our last one was just over a year ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't super well attended. I guess maybe that says two things: either that we could have done a little bit better with advertising, or people are generally content and that they don't really have a lot of concerns to bring forward. But I do attend a lot of community events myself. In fact, there was the open house that was held here that council had that I attended myself, and interacted with the residents and the ratepayers that showed up to ask questions and had just general inquiries about policing in the area. I do plan to have a general area town hall sessions to, again, seek that community engagement this year. That's still a priority for Alberta RCMP unless it changes. We have a new commanding officer now. But I do, try to seek a lot of input from our residents, our elected officials by being here today, but also through our involvement in community events. That's where I want our members out there talking to people where they're at. People, if they feel like they can approach an RCMP member, a policeman, or a peace officer, that they can ask questions. If they have concerns, we can tell them what we're doing to address them. But all of that, comes into myself, and I do seek that input from all my members when they're out dealing with calls for service. So that's, the public interaction piece. And again, what we're seeing with our crime data, well, typically a large percentage of crime isn't reported, but that's where we want people to start reporting, regardless if we can do something about it or not. That would tell us, which areas are a bit more of a hotspot that we can pay attention to versus not knowing that there's, perhaps a certain type of criminal activity happening in a certain area what we'd otherwise be unaware of. So that's something that we do encourage. I guess more directly to your question, they are planned for this year into next year's planning cycle, so we will be having them.
Yeah, so if you need some help with that, because I know that the one in Dallin was, there was an okay number of people that showed up, but there could have been a lot more people, and the people that were there really got a lot out of it. So I think it's good. Then the only other question I have is, they mentioned they have a drone now. Have you guys got one or got access to one?
So we in our detachment, yes, we do. That we've deployed actually in a number of our types of investigations, whether it be body recoveries from the Bow River, car collisions that we can have good aerial views, and with some of the capabilities, if we were to try to approach a residence, particularly in a rural area, we can get eyes on a residence without exposing our members to risk, and to collect, I guess, valuable information if we're responding to an urgent call for service, or if we were dealing with a high risk or violent type of situation. That is there. Broadly in the RCMP, we do have higher capacity type drones that we use in larger operations. So we have access to that technology not only locally, but again, I guess if you look at the racing model, if you will, the bigger ones, we do have access to that program as well, and they can be out here in a short period of time, because we're conveniently placed near Calgary.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you for your presentation. Do we need a motion to accept the information?
You should.
I'll move that.
Motion by Councillor Larson. Any discussion? Call the question via e-scribe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That's carried. Move on to the consent agenda, and I just have a question from administration. We have a couple here that are kind of pulled out. So if we approve the consent agenda, do these automatically, like 7.41, 7.51, and 7.71, do they automatically come out, or just each individual report have to request?
So if, to the chair, if there's an item that council wants to discuss, council should state that now, and then have a motion just pulling one out from the agenda. If it's already in the agenda, then it's fine because the agenda was approved. I'm not quite sure which one.
So a part of the council reports and related business, and it's under consent agenda, which includes all the reports. The Drumheller and municipal software letters and things like that, is that automatically in the agenda? Or do they have to address it? That's what I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, so anything under 7 would be addressed as it comes up.
Okay.
As for the consent agenda, anything under 5, if you see something from page 213 to the end of 233.
Okay.
If there's anything in there that, if council's okay with all documents in there as is, then just approve the consent agenda as presented. If you want to talk about any of those items, pull them out. And then besides that, the intermunicipal supper, the item under Councillor Eicher's report, WHMB letter, and the RCMP town hall attendance will be addressed as it comes up.
Perfect. So we're clear on that. I don't know. Just wanted to make sure we're doing this right. So we have a consent agenda in front of us. Council's wishes. On page 212, go ahead, Councillor Larson.
I'll move that we accept the items on the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That's carried. So business arising, no, don't have to worry about that. 7.41, Drumheller Intermunicipal Supper, brought forward by Councillor Bigger. Are you on the line, Councillor Bigger?
So I think just to stay in order, we should do 7.1. Is the reef still on the line?
I am, thank you.
Yes, sorry.
My report is included in the package starting on page 233. I'll highlight a couple of things. I want to point out the Heart of the Community program under Community Futures Wild Rose. I will be including some additional information regarding this program with my next council report. But I do just want to highlight that, and I guess just give a little preliminary teaser to please watch for that information. We will be looking for councillors to be nominating businesses as well as just amplifying messaging around that program. But I will include complete information with my next report. I do just want to thank council for electing me as Reeve. It's a privilege to serve and one that I don't take lightly, so thank you. We had a really good meeting with Community Futures with our Prairie Scan representative. That's the representative on behalf of the Government of Canada. They provide the majority of our funding for our programming and also oversee our program. And we have a new representative with Prairie Scan, and it was a really good initial meeting. I also participated in the Economic Developers of Alberta Economic Disaster Resilience and Recovery Program. And I did actually mean to just also put an addendum. I'm going to just request a per diem for that course. I do have a copy of the manual for our administration, as well as a copy for one of the REMP, for our REMP coordinator. And there was a lot of just background information about governance considerations during an emergency or a disaster and what role we can play in terms of business recovery and resilience. And a lot of that I think does need to be looked at, and at least a process or a group identified to facilitate that. A lot of it is not necessarily in that acute emergency or disaster phase, but certainly there are ways that we can facilitate that or contribute to that in that post-recovery phase. We also had an excellent visit. MLA DeYoung visited Community Futures Wildrose. She was keenly interested in learning more about our programs and the impact of the lending that Community Futures provides for entrepreneurs in our region, which includes her constituency. We also had a great evening at the Drumheller Mayor's Social. Thank you to Mayor Kohlberg and her council for hosting us. There was a really good turnout with colleagues from multiple municipalities that gathered that evening just to discuss basically challenges, accomplishments, and it was just a really good evening to connect with our neighbors. Also want to thank the Strathmore-Wheatland Chamber of Commerce. They did a phenomenal job on the Business Excellence Awards, and we did see Wheatland County businesses that were nominated and recognized at the awards night, and it was actually just so phenomenal. Councillor Laprise and I both attended, and we had an opportunity to chat with some of our business owners and entrepreneurs, and to see the meaningful impact that that recognition has on our entrepreneurs was really moving for me as well. I was grateful that we were invited to be a part of the awards evening. With that, I will move that my report be accepted as presented, and I will just have a follow-up motion as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Reeve Link. Motion on the floor. Any questions? No. Call a question. And that's carried. You have a following motion?
Would just like to request consideration by council for a per diem and mileage for that October 21st Economic Developers of Alberta Economic Disaster Resilience and Recovery Program. It's would not be considered a committee meeting per se, and it wasn't a regular Community Futures Board meeting, but I did feel like it was important for Wheatland County to be represented there.
Okay.
Just asking for consideration for per diem and mileage.
Okay. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves per diem and mileage for Reeve Link to attend Economic Developers of Alberta Economic Disaster Resilience and Recovery Program.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Call the question. And that's carried. Move on to my report, but before I do that, I just want to apologize to council. I did not try to hide the reports or anything like that. It was strictly my brain not working right in this chair. Sometimes you have to dance around 3 or 4 or 5 different things at a time. As soon as it clicked in, I went, oh, I'm screwing up here. But thank you for indulging my silliness. So on page 235 of my report, I'll just talk about Southern Alberta Energy from Waste. We've had quite a few meetings. We've presented to the board 3 different vendors. So I believe by the end of this year, it will be wrapped up. I'm hoping by the middle of next month, we will have a vendor chosen. It ranges from a large scale down to small regional. I will get some information back to council when the decision is made by the board, and then go from there. It's been a very, very, very busy summer and year working with it. We've basically rejigged everything and came back with some options that they never had before. And I do believe that the technology has caught up with the idea. So that's just what I wanted to say about that. The intermunicipal committee meeting with Rocky View County was more of a, here's what our idea is, what are your thoughts? Has to do with some land negotiations and things like that, which we can't really speak of where, when, and why. But more because it's we're right in their area or around their area, and within that fringe boundary, we're giving them the courtesy of letting them know what our ideas are and what their inputs are. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, I'll move my report as presented. Any questions? I'll call the question. That's carried. We'll move on to 7.3. Council report from Division 1.
Thank you. My report is on page 236. A couple things I'll highlight. From the Ag Service Board perspective, we're still trying to investigate some solutions for gopher control. We're still hearing significant issues in the county. Recently, we wrote a letter to Minister Sigurdsson to follow up on comments he made in response to one of our provincial ASB resolutions. And he had said at that time that he would look at providing, at possibly the feds providing cost recovery for crop losses, and also that the province would look into attempting to duplicate the study that was done by the government of Saskatchewan, showing the results of a strychnine versus ZP oat bait. It showed it to be the alternative was as good or better, and personally I haven't found that, so I would be interested to get another study to see if that is true. So I haven't heard back on that. Central RMA was really good this year. I thought they had a really great presentation about a provincial paramountcy in renewable energy development. And especially I thought they said something about regarding our MDP and LUB, and how if we put stipulations in those documents, the AUC would have to consider them, not that they would have to respect them necessarily, but that they would have to look at them. And so I thought that was really interesting comments from that presenter. I attended the ASHA regional conference in Calgary, and the ADM of Seniors, Community and Social Services was there and reported on a number of different things. He reported that the Alberta Housing Partnership Program will reopen in November, so should be soon. He said there will be upwards of $100 million in grants to be awarded in that. He also said those with applications still in the queue will be reevaluated. He mentioned that the Lodge review that was completed this summer is on the minister's desk, but he didn't want to really release results until they had to kind of have a strategy of how they will respond to the recommendations that were made. So hopefully in the new year that will come out. And they are also working on a strategy for capital maintenance and renewal for lodge buildings and other housing, and hope to have a strategy in place by next year. The only other thing I thought I would mention is, again, as Reeve Link mentioned, I just wanted to give kudos to the Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce. That BEA night was excellent. They had a really great turnout, and like Reeve Link said, just the impact to the business owners in our area was great to see. So with that, I will move to for acceptance of my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions on the report?
I just have one question, and it's regard to the Strathmore Chamber of Commerce. I just noted that in the paper that there was a Strathmore Business Association has been opened up in the town of Strathmore. Has there been any idea, will this in fact, are they going to work together, or is this going to be, does anybody know how this works?
So from my understanding, so we don't have a councillor who sits on the Strathmore Wheatland Chamber of Commerce anymore. And it used to be that our EDO sat on it, but we don't have that either. So we are out of the loop at this point. Maybe that's something that we need to reconsider. I don't know.
Just through the chair, one of our staff members actually does still attend the meetings on a monthly basis. So the meeting is actually being held tomorrow, so we can find out and bring some information back to council. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion's on the floor. I will call the question. That's carried. Move on to Division 3 Councilor Report. Councilor Bigger.
Thank you. Yes, my report is on the server. I would mention that with the WFCSF, I just want to let everybody know that they did sign a 5-year agreement with their space with the county. So that's good news, and I'm sure it makes them feel better, and you know what's going on too. The Drumheller supper was excellent. It was good to connect with other councillors and discussions that have the same questions about things like solar and wind and many other things. It was a good evening. Yeah, the ASB regional meeting was held one day in Brooks, the next day in Tilly. It was good to be out there. I've never been to Tilly. It was a good AGM. So with that, I'll just leave my report as presented for approval.
Thank you, Councilor Bigger. Any questions? If not, I'll call the question on the motion. That's carried. Councilor Bigger, you had 7.41. Did you want to speak further about the Drumheller Intermunicipal Supper?
Yes, I'd like to request that the per diem and mileage be paid for the dinner that was held at, hosted by Drumheller.
Do you want to put a motion forward?
Yeah, sorry, that was my motion. I'd like to move that we have per diem and mileage paid for the Drumheller dinner.
Thank you.
Held on the 24th. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Council discussion. Go ahead.
This Drumheller supper, was it just the supper, party-like atmosphere? I couldn't go again this year, but I'm just wondering. There was no meeting or nothing. If it was just a get-together, I don't know if I really want to pay a per diem for that.
Did you hear the question, Councilor Bigger?
I think so, yeah. It wasn't a meeting. It was, they had the taste of Drumheller. So they had different restaurants from the area show their products. And then they had, it was like a table setting. So you had like mixed counselors at each table. It was kind of a social atmosphere, not an actual meeting where they had an agenda or anything. The mayor came around and spoke on Drumheller, and yeah, that was about it. It was very informative, though, and it was very good to see that other people have some of the same issues and concerns from our neighboring councils and neighboring counties, and it was good to listen to that and hear those concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I would categorize it as a networking opportunity more than anything.
That probably sounds appropriate, yeah. No further discussion. We have a motion on the floor for per diem and mileage for this event. I'll call the question. That's carried unanimously. We'll move on to 7.5, Division 4 Council Report. Councillor Eichert.
My report is on the server. I believe everything has been sort of covered on my report by previous councillors, so I will move my report as presented.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for report. Any questions on that report? Seeing none, I will call the question. That's carried. You also, we'll move on to 7.51, same, Councillor Eichert brought forward Wheatland Housing Management Body Letter.
Yeah, no, I didn't know quite how to handle it. I was going to ask council to send a letter to Wheatland Housing and Management asking them to release information on the cost to date on the proposed lodge build, i.e. the architect, the consultant, project manager, and the builder. But subsequent to adding this to the agenda, I found out I was reading the minutes for Wheatland Housing Management Board, and they stated in there they will not be releasing that information, so my letter is moot. I just wanted that to be explained, so thank you.
So there's no motion. Any discussion? Or maybe there's a question. Go ahead, Councillor Kester.
I'm not aware that the Wheatland Housing Management Body issued a letter. They're not releasing any information.
There was no letter. We had discussed this at a council meeting. There had been no motion made requesting that information, but that was addressed at in the minutes on a Wheatland Housing Management Board that they were not going to release that information. So there's no point in me going forward with this. So.
But there never was an official council motion to send.
Exactly.
Okay. And we don't want to have one now? No further?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we will move forward. There's no action taken there. 7.6, Division 6 Council Report. Councillor Kester.
My report's on the server. And I would just like to add on the Wheatland Housing for council's information that CMHC has offered Wheatland Housing a loan to pay for planning. We accepted the offer, but did not take any money because we have no way of paying it back at the present time. And they also offered up, which we accepted and are in the process of spending, seed money of 150,000, I believe. The board is met, and we decided that we would use that money for a development permit. Last I've heard, we're over 50% done getting ready for the development permit. We should have ready to approach before the end of the month. So that's CMHC seed money that is totally a gift, and we're using it for development permit from the town of Strathmore. So we have not been spending any money on the building. We have no money left to spend, so that's just where we are right now. And if there's not any questions, I'll move my report.
Okay, motion on the floor. Any questions on the report? I just had one, development permit. I understand, so that you're going towards one. How long would that be open for? Like, I know in our organization, it's usually a year. Are you requesting a longer time frame, being you don't have funding?
I don't know what the town of Strathmore does. We haven't approached the town yet. They're just getting everything together. Part of the development permit stage, it's different than building. There, we had to hire a consultant to do landscaping. We've not had any landscaping done. It's just different things in the development permit that weren't done that we're using this as an opportunity to get done. And by the end of the month, we'll be able to present it to the town and see if it's acceptable. If we can want to go ahead with the development permit, that'll be another discussion at the time. But it's getting the package ready for the development permit and the different fees that are associated with that.
And is all the fees, you're treated as any other customer within the town? You pay all the fees for the development are not being waived. It's all just whatever the cost is because the development's within the town. I know with some of our stuff, we waived fees before for things that are.
It hasn't been presented to the town yet.
Okay.
So I can't answer that question.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Motion on the floor. Any further questions? If not, I will call the question. And that's carried. We'll move finally to Division 7 Council Report. Councillor Larson.
My report's on the server and pretty much everything's been discussed. I brought up some of the stuff at the Drumheller RCMP Town Hall meeting when Strathmore was here. The other thing is Chris Perman was there, which was helpful as well. A lot of good questions. Turnout wasn't as good as it could have been, but it was decent. So if there's any questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I'll move my report.
Motion on the floor. Any questions on the report? If not, I'll call the question.
Just through the chair, just waiting on Reeve Link for her vote.
Reeve Link is in favor, but the voting is not working. My apologies.
Okay. It just came through too as well, so we're good. It's carried unanimously. 7.71, Councillor Larson as well.
Yeah. I'll just move that the council agree to a partial per diem and mileage to attend the Drumheller RCMP Town Hall meeting in Dallam.
Motion's on the floor to ratify 1 per diem mileage for Councillor Larson's attendance at RCMP Town Hall, Dallam, Alberta on October 16th, 2024. Any questions? I will call the question. That's carried unanimously. We will move on to 8.1, Chief Administrative Officer Report. The floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 246 of your agenda package is the CAO monthly report for October 2024. As always, the resolution tracker is in there as well, and that starts on page 248. Anything in yellow is deemed ongoing. Anything in green is deemed complete. If there are any questions about my report or the resolution tracker, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Reviewing the report, is there any questions?
Just a question on CM 2023-05-55 from May 16, 2023. There were some discussions at RMA with the minister, impromptu discussions, in the fact that we have an agreement with That's part of the whole reason that thing got built was because we signed off on it. And we still have, I believe, 15%. Wheeling County has been designated 15% of the line capacity. It was built that way to be oversized and all that kind of stuff. So as much as I like, how does this go that, how long do we go before we have to have a hammer here that like, this is something that we have to take to, and may have to sue the city to do, but I mean, there's a huge appetite for the province not to get involved because it is a big municipality, but an agreement is an agreement. And just being really, really nice about it and asking, so please, please, when we are owed that 15%. So I don't know, maybe we put it onto a committee of the whole meeting to discuss our thoughts going forward, but.
Regional water line, I believe.
Regional water line, on the East Regional Water Line. I believe the administration is having ongoing discussions with the City of Calgary. City of Calgary is dragging their feet, as I understand it. And this should just be a yes or no, like this is, well, not even a yes or no. This is, we got government funding. Everybody involved got government funding to do this. And I don't know what the proper steps going forward, put it on a committee of the whole and then coming out of the committee of the whole that we figure, but just asking politely, I don't think is the right way to do it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess because it is a resolution that we've had on for quite some time, was, I believe council wanted to go that direction first. It was basically the low hanging fruit of way to service that area just on the water side. We did have an agreement in place. Is there a report coming back to council in the future on this, or what should we?
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, we have been working administration to administration, and originally we were to go with both documents for the the term sheet for servicing and the planning rationale for the December 18th Intermunicipal Governmental Affairs Committee. They have moved the technical portion to the February IGA meeting. And now there's conversations that the planning portion will also be moved, and we're trying to get it to stay so that if they just say no, we know ahead of time in the December meeting. But at this point, it looks like they're trying to postpone again to February to even entertain the request.
And just a point from administration. So yes, the East Regional Calgary Water Line is one option to provide potable water into the West Highway 1 ASP. However, administration does recognize that, you know, putting all your eggs in one basket isn't necessarily a good idea. So administration is working on other solutions for water for the ASP. So this is an ongoing potential solution. However, we do recognize there have been delays on this one, and you know, we're coming up to a timeline where landowners in the Highway 1 ASP, specifically to Haviland, is going to start turning dirt, and they're going to need water servicing at some point. We have a rough idea when, it's just throughout our kind of conversations and meetings with them, but it's, yeah, it is a process that administration is looking into and various options as well. Thank you.
So, go ahead.
And that is why I'm thinking that maybe now might be the time to get legal involved in this. Only because even if we get permission to use the water line, we will have to source out water license and all that to use the water line. All that stuff is time consuming. The fact that one of the partners is dragging their feet doesn't, I understand the complications. They want to bring us, you know, that jurisdiction's probably gone back probably wants to be back in the CMRB and all this kind of stuff. It's just a shame that we sit down there and the province spends millions of dollars on infrastructure, multi-millions of dollars on infrastructure, with the thought being that it's all interregional and all this kind of stuff. And then you get one partner that refuses to uphold a binding and legal contract as far as I can tell. So, I appreciate administration. I'm not putting all their eggs in one basket, but I am just wondering if now is not like, it'll be February and then it'll be June, and because we are government, we do not want to make a decision.
I can follow up a little bit. I happened to talk to Municipal Affairs Minister about this project, and he asked, he says if, he basically said if you can use my office, send the agreement to him, send him a one-pager, give him a highlight of what's been done, and he will see what he can do. He also said talk to Alberta Environment as well. I just said, and I basically said we had an agreement from inception. I don't know if I've ever actually seen the agreement. I might have, but I said if you have an agreement from the start, whether there's whatever checks and balances are there, why wouldn't Municipal Affairs say it's a valid agreement and you have to, work together? That's their department. So that department did say they'd work with us. And like I said, it's for me, and I think anybody in this room doesn't want the strings of other things coming with it. It's basically there was agreement in place, honor or don't. Give us a straight answer so we can move forward and check that off the list. At least that was my intention when we voted to go this way, was it's, like I said, it's low hanging fruit. It makes the most sense. It's probably the most economically viable solution. Maybe not for full build out, but for some part of, we have a portion of it, we could use that. We may have to add in the future, but for right now, we'll check a lot of boxes. But yeah, if we want to involve, or if staff needs help, Municipal Affairs said they would help. I don't know if you need a motion for that, or Councillor Kester.
I wouldn't get legal involved right now. I've been through this fight. I know what you're talking about. I don't think there was ever an agreement with the City of Calgary. City of Calgary said you can hook up to our water line, and they give everybody their requirements to get water. And one of the paragraphs was they have to approve all developments. I don't know if that's the one Strathmore signed or not. I know the particulars, and I don't think there's any legal way you can force the city. It's their water, and they're using it. And you've seen the letter they sent. They referenced the planning commission that we got out of. They referenced sound planning ideas and how it's the regional plan getting thrown right back at us. And if we don't fulfill it, we won't get the water. I knew that was going to happen, but nobody else was here when we were going through that. But I don't know if it's worth the cost to get a lawyer involved. I don't know who you can ask besides me that was here. Nobody else was here. But it's pretty hard. It takes actually a motion from the City of Calgary Council to give us water.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to reiterate, that water line was built with 90% provincial money. It was built between multiple municipalities. There has to be, I cannot believe that they would ever allow that money to be let go with, to be built, to allow that money to be spent, to be built, when one of the signees of that municipality, which guaranteed the 90% funding, is not allowed to have access to that water line. It's wrong.
I agree with Councillor Eichert. In the same sense, we signed on. We did not pay any money outside of per diems to go to meetings. Strathmore picked up our share of the tab of the 10%. I believe was around $2 million. Strathmore picked it up, and they're probably figuring on they'll get that capacity too. That's why you have to ask Strathmore if we can have water out of it. We never paid anything for that water line.
But that's not true in the fact that any of the water lines that went through Rocky View County, individual ratepayers, landowners were paid because the water, we allowed that water line to go through our right-of-ways. So that is, in fact, money being paid. I know we lost that court case. Daniak was the minister at the time, but that doesn't mean he was right. We have got, like, the amount of money that we saved Strathmore by not having them to negotiate with individual landowners for easement for that pipeline is substantial.
I agree with you. We're being good neighbors.
So I think, would administration, would you find it helpful to have municipal affairs look into this with a briefing? I just don't want to complicate matters, but.
Yeah, just through the chair, I'm just trying to think of the end result that Councillor Eicher is looking to get. Would it be just a general update on it? I'm not sure if the East Regional Calgary water line is the optimal option as well, and we just don't know that. Maybe just clear or better understanding the goal from the conversation with municipal affairs, whether it be a hammer to enter into an agreement, which I think they've said they can't do, or I'm just trying to understand the.
Well, I think Councillor Clausen expressed it. This is not a solution to our water servicing problem or opportunity, our water servicing opportunity in Wheatland West, but it is a substantial, like it could be it's the most immediate fix if everything were to come together, because we build a reservoir and we build a reservoir for the whole thing. And if the East Calgary pipeline supplies 40% of that water and we bring 40% into somewhere else, it's all part of the solution. But it is the most available solution that we have. And it's just been like the government, I'll go back to the government funded this to 90%. They have to hold the hammer in this thing. So I don't want to step on anybody's toes and all this kind of stuff. But there has to be, like, the government has to, like, one partner cannot hold up the whole thing just because it doesn't matter how big the partner is. If we've all signed in a contract on it, and maybe that contract doesn't exist, which I cannot believe that would happen, because 90% funding had to include like 5 or 6 different regional municipalities. So I'd be willing to make a motion that we send a one-pager to the minister outlining where our situation stands with the East Calgary water line, and do we have any grounds to stand on before we bring,
So basically, motion to municipal affairs, given a history, current process, and the agreement that we had originally that started all this. And probably include Alberta Environment and Parks. And then, I believe our intention here is we're not asking for water. We're asking to utilize their system. And we would provide license through that system for the agreement that was put in place when it was built. So I just to kind of, instead of pushing it down the road, and we know development's coming, it will help things move forward, or at least check the box off that it's an impossibility.
Could administration have a 5-minute recess?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We can come back to this after lunch too. We can put it on. Okay. Recess, we'll return at 11:10. And we're back after a brief recess. And I just got a note from Reeve Link. She's had to step away for the remainder of the meeting. She will try to get back on if she can. So she will be marked as absent for voting. So we can continue on.
Administration is just requesting, back to the item of the East Regional Calgary water line, if we could move this matter to in camera at the end of the meeting with the rest of the in camera items.
Okay.
And then council would just need to pass a motion for that as well.
So, you want to make a motion to move that in camera?
I'll make a motion that we move the discussion about the East Calgary water line in camera.
Motion on the floor to add it, so that will be be added to our list of things in camera. And the FOIP section, FOIP 24 would be, yeah, for sure. It's one of those things, I can definitely see why this would need to be in camera. Motion on the floor, council's wishes. I will call the question. Sorry, we voted on the council CAO report. Did you do a separate one or no? Okay. So sorry, did we have two motions on the floor? Did I screw up? Okay.
I believe voting is still occurring on the motion to move that one to in camera.
Okay. Okay. So we had the motion that, so we should start at the top then? Yeah. Okay, so we'll start over again. So we had let's start at the top. So accept it as information and then the tracker, and then you can put your motion at the end.
But I'll move that council accept the 2024 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you. Again, catching up with technology. There's a motion on the floor for the CAO report as information. I'll call the question. That's carried. The previous motion carried as well for a discussion to add to East Calgary Regional Water Line to in-camera, it carried as well. So now we have the third motion to accept Council Rosen tracker.
I'll move that council accept the November 12, 2024 council resolution tracker as information.
Thank you. There's motion on the floor. Any questions? I will call the question. And that's carried. We will move on to 8.82, appointment of returning officer and substitute returning officer.
Yes, good morning, council. Brian again from administration. For the upcoming municipal election in 2025, Wheatland County is required to appoint a returning officer and a substitute returning officer. So Wheatland County is a small enough organization that we have been doing this internally. So we did it internally in 2021 as well. So in 2025, we're proposing to appoint Shanna Pearson as the returning officer and Jessica Salmon as the substitute returning officer for the municipal election. If there's any questions about the report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Motion?
I've just got a question in regards to, and this was brought up at RMA, because the potential for it being on the same date. So are Shanna and Jessica both tasked with figuring out how to carry this thing off if it is the same date? How does that work?
So you're talking about the federal and the municipal
Yeah, the
election.
federal and
there's a possibility it could be on the same day.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, so just through the chair, it would be the responsibility of the returning officer and substitute returning officer. Of course, administration would provide support to both returning officer and substitute returning officer. If it is the same date, we will definitely be in the same boat as the 300 and some odd other municipalities in Alberta. And we'll take it as it goes, I guess.
Thank you.
There was a motion at RMA to do some, to try to get that to change and lobby, and it got defeated, so we're stuck with it for now?
Yes, so just to clarify the chair's point, there was that the provincial resolution that was brought forward by Rockview County at the provincial RMA, and unfortunately it wasn't successful at the advocacy level for RMA to move it forward. And that was pretty interesting. I thought for sure that one actually would get passed, but got defeated by the membership. So that's one avenue that didn't get the advocacy it may have deserved.
Okay, well, I'll move that council appoint Shanna Pearson, executive assistant as returning officer, and Jessica Solomon, payroll and benefits specialist as substitute returning officer for the purpose of conducting the 2025 municipal election.
Thank you for the motion. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That's carried. Move on to 8.83, Drumheller and Area Health Foundation Membership Inquiry Response.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. At the October 15th, 2024 organizational meeting, the resolution was made that Council direct administration to find out the broad spectrum of who is appointed to the Drumheller Area Health Foundation. Administration did send that off to the Drumheller Area Health Foundation and did receive a response. That response can be found on page 263 of your agenda package. Administration doesn't have anything further to add. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions with the report back? Being it was a council request for this information. Okay. No action need to be taken from that, correct?
I'll move that council accept the Drumheller Area Health Foundation membership inquiry response as information.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion? Call the question. Just wait. Questions, this is your working? Oh, it's carried. Go ahead. Oh, your mic's not on.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, one of the two. We decided, or council decided, not to pay Councillor Larson's per diem and mileage for attending the Drumheller Foundation meetings. We just got information that Drumheller, Starland, and Wheatland. Drumheller and Starland have council representation. Wheatland is voluntary, and Nehill, I guess they have their own hospital and health treatment thing. But anyway, being that the other municipalities support it, it's important that we support it too. That hospital, I wasn't at the last meeting, but the doctor that was there said, I think he said 11,000 surgeries, and it's designated to provide more. They're ramping it up some more. They need this foundation to continue building, and it serves a huge population here in Strathmore. And I think we should be paying for per diem. We pay for per diem to go to Drumheller to have dinner. I think this is important for me. And I don't know if I can just add a motion that we reconsider that, or
I'd have to look on how it works with procedure, because it was voted on before. How long till, well, you've never gone through this process. I'd have to, can I review it, and after lunch I can just make sure.
If it's the same procedure, then I can't bring it because I voted the other way.
Yeah, I'd have to review it. If just so we don't have to delay time, I can review it at lunchtime.
And I think it's important, and the ratepayers want it.
So I believe the clause in the old procedure bylaw had mentioned that the same motion cannot come back, but any motion can come back again now without a time frame. But probably should review that procedure bylaw and take a look at that specific section.
Thanks, Brian.
We do have a volunteer that is sitting on the board. I believe we were going to deal with this later on. But would it, if it's, maybe we better off to do a donation or something too? I don't know. We can discuss it after. Okay, so we'll park that until after lunch. And I'll just review the process so I can give a proper answer back. And then we'll move on to, and I'll circle that on my agenda here. Move on to 8.14, Human Resources Policy 6.9.4, personal vehicle use while on county business.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. On page 264 in your agenda package is the Human Resource Policy 6.9.4, personal vehicle use while on county business. So what administration has done is we do periodically review our policies. And this was one policy that we thought that required further clarity in it, just so, because personal vehicles are used on a limited basis as well for county business, and we just wanted to make sure that it is clearly outlined in this policy, the complications that could be used, also that it does require supervisor approval prior to doing so. And that was the only revision to the policy. As always, additions to policies is done in green and deletions are done in red. So the only addition to this policy is right at the bottom of 267 and kind of continues on to 268. If there's any questions about this policy, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, a motion? Go ahead, Councilor Priest.
I'll move that Wheatland County Council approve amendments to Human Resources Policy 6.9.4, personal vehicle use while on county business, based on recommendations from the county's insurance provider.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? If not, I will call the question. That's carried. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, 8.15, member at large appointment to Drumheller and Area Health Foundation.
Yes, good morning, Council. Apologies that this should have been probably grouped in together with the 8.2, 8.3. However, we're back to the Drumheller Area Health Foundation. So the October 15th, 2024 organizational meeting, Council did make the following resolution. The Council accept the Drumheller Area Foundation Committee appointment report as information and direct staff to contact the present member at large to inquire about her interest in continuing to represent Wheatland County on the committee. So administration did reach out to Ms. Marshman on October 17th. Ms. Marshman did respond, and the email correspondence is on page 272. Administration has provided a recommendation. If there's any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? So has Ms. Marshman continued to be sitting at this as a volunteer throughout this whole time? Like hasn't been a lapse?
That's my understanding. There's not been a lapse.
Thank you for that.
I'll move that Wheatland County appoint Mary Marshman as a county representative. No, I won't move that. She's my sister.
How about, I'll move that Wheatland County appoint Mary Marshman as the county's representative member at large to the Drumheller Area Health Foundation.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion?
I will declare conflict.
Okay. You only have to declare conflict if it's monetary wise, and I don't believe it's a volunteer position. Do we pay mileage or anything like that?
So there's been an amendment to the Municipal Government Act where there's further provisions to declare conflict. So even if not financial, I believe.
Is that in effect now?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And if not, yeah, I'm almost certain it is.
Okay, fair enough. Strike my comments. So we will be voting less one Councillor Kester. So everybody clear? I'll call the question. You have to probably press abstain.
You'd have to just hit abstain on your vote.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't happen often.
I don't know how to raise my arm like that.
It's just a click away.
It's a different color.
And that's carried. We'll move on to 8.16, Wheatland and Family Community Support Services lease.
Yes. Good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. On page 273 of your agenda package is a RFD for a lease for the WFCSS to continue to operate in the county administration building. So administration actually had thought that there wasn't a lease agreement between us and the WFCSS to operate within the county building. And it just so happens that there was not one with the WFCSS and the county. So this is just a general oversight by administration. Nothing changes on a day-to-day basis. They've been in the building at least since I've been in staff, so 8 years. Councillor Kessler might be able to get the exact dates, or I assume for quite a long time, because they had been fully operational when I had started at the county in 2016. So again, this is just kind of describes the general operations that they do now. They occupy a couple offices in the east wing of the building, or the west wing of the building. Again, the $1 a year, and it's beneficial for the community as well. And we do have the open office space. The agreement of the actual lease starts on page 276 of your agenda package, and it has been also provided to the WFCSS CAO for her review. And there's a little bit of back and forth, just making sure it was very clear for both parties. And that's the extent of the presentation. If there's any questions about this lease agreement, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
So just for clarity, on page 285, there's a diagram that outlines 2 office spaces. But I think in the back and forth between WFCSS and the county, there was actually 2 storage spaces that were also added on in the negotiation. So just, it's really hard to read the numbers, but maybe 134 and 130.
Yeah, so through the chair, that's correct. So 137 is a storage closet, and 134 is lunchroom / photocopier room, and then just kind of in the middle there is where the washrooms are to the ECC. So we can definitely highlight those in green as well. That was our intention. Yeah, just must have missed that one on the back and forth.
Any questions?
So would we, should we approve it with that amendment? As a, just approve it?
Through the Reeve we can, or through the chair we can, to provide clarity. Yeah, whatever the will of council is, it's in the agreement. I guess the oversight would be just that the 137 and 134 just aren't highlighted in green. Maybe as presented, and add the rooms on schedule, I think it's schedule A, or sorry, it says schedule C.
Good.
Just, I don't know what is this considered a donation in kind? In the fact that it's, like, I'm 100% in favor of this. But if a corporation had to go out and rent those spaces, that would be a considerable amount of money. And I would like, I don't know how we get it out there that we, because that's, it is if they weren't there, I guarantee you, we would be filling up that space. So even though I agree with it, like, there should be some way that we can say that, like, this is also in support of the operation. It's more than just a $1 thing, right? Like,
yes, through the chair, we certainly can. We can definitely assign a fair market value to it and kind of put it on our list, the in-kind donation update schedule that's brought every quarter to council. So there's Q3. Yeah, and it is a good idea, and Councillor Eichert kind of hit the nail on the head that it is something that ultimately saves county residents money, as we do support the WFCS financially. And that's something that we can add on that report as well moving forward.
I might be a one man out on an island here, but if it's a good idea, I would like to, I'd recommend it, but thoughts?
Go ahead, Councillor Kester, then Councillor LaPriest.
I know from my time on FCSS, municipalities have a set number. They send FCSS every year for the agreement. Then there was always the choice for an over contribution, and the province looks with interest on these over contributions. I'm thinking this office rent could be an over contribution, and it could be recognized as such. It doesn't just, it's just on another line, so the government can see that we're consistently over contributing, or we're over contributing by this much, and in addition to what we have been overdoing. It just makes the province aware of what we're doing too.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of it, but it's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, for me, I'd support that. And because I remember when we first got elected here, there was a big addition planned in a whole other building because we were busting at the seams. And now, thank God, we are able to utilize some of these places in-house, which they were still here. But, it's nice that to see that we've, how many years it's been, 7 years, and we've not utilized that plan. And that'll be my next question is there a plan in the next 10 years of this agreement that we're going to have to expand this building that you know of?
So through the chair, administration doesn't have a plan to expand the footprint of this building. We are, I believe, currently working on a public works master's plan. We do have additional land down there. However, I haven't seen anything. I'm not sure if it started yet. As for if we did require the additional office space in the next 10 years, which is, I'd probably say very, very unlikely at the 99th percentile, because we do currently have space in the front as well. So as many seats you need to add, you can move to different models like shared workspaces and things like that as well. There is a provision in this lease agreement for termination of the lease as well. I would guess that it would be highly improbable that the county would exercise that option, but it is in there just in case. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was, I noticed that in the lease too. There was an exit clause if it needed, so. Council's wishes, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll move that council authorize the Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer to sign a lease agreement with WFCSS for the use of the office space in the administration building for a 10-year term at the rate of $1 per year.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. And that's carried. We'll move on to 8.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report. Welcome back, sir.
Good morning again, Council. Joel here from administration to present some highlights from the Corporate Financial Services Report for October on Corey's behalf. So I'll just go through a few and highlight a few items here. So for the assessment section, just to identify that the reinspection cycle for Rockford and Standard has been completed. And as a reminder, that's a fully recoverable cost for the county's part. In addition to that, the inspections and all the work that the assessment team is really underway, and they're in the thick of it. I can probably speak for all the office staff as they see Dennis and his staff just in and out of the office being busy with that stuff. If we go to the important things, the finance stuff. So, of course, in October and November, we're right in the thick of the budget draft cycle, and which we'll be bringing to council forthcoming here. And then we're also, during October, we're working on the master schedule of fees bylaw, which council has approved today. And the Army insurance, some detailed coverage with that. We're often busy in finance with RMA during this time of year, just because the invoices come in and we're working through all of those details as well. And also to highlight the dog license renewal letters were also sent out during the month. For information services, a lot of their work right now is just kind of finalizing the transition of everyone to Windows 11 from the old Windows 10. And the last item that I'll highlight here is in information management, the digital transformation project. The development permit process is completed and it's in a limited release currently, and it's being shared with some ratepayers. That concludes this report, and administration is available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the financial side, because he really likes those? Council's wishes. I'll make the motion that council accepts the corporate and financial services report for October 2024 as information. Any discussion? Call the question. That's carried. We'll move on to 8.22, County in-kind donations update Q3 2024.
Again, once again, Joel from administration. So this is our standard quarterly update for the in-kind contributions. And just to point out, it was interesting, I was actually just messaging our CAO about the potential in-kind discussion that you just had, so we'll be sure to look at that. So for quarter 3 of 2024, we have included our standard table that we do every quarter with about $10,500 of calculated in-kind contributions. The highlighted large items for this quarter were the Strathmore Rodeo, where there was provision of the water truck, and then the other one was the handy bus vehicle inspection program, which is we do that in a 6-month period, and council typically chooses to write that billing off as an in-kind towards them. In addition to that, now that we have some rolling records historically, we're able to provide some tables so that council can see the total dollar values for each quarter compared to prior years as well. And that concludes this report. Staff are available for questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions? Council's wishes.
I like the tables, those are good. I'll move that council accepts the county in-kind donations update Q2 2024 report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. That's carried. Move on to 8.31, Community and Development Services Report.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bears with Administration to provide the October 2024 Community and Development Services Update, which is found on page 296 of the agenda package. The only update I have today is to point out that the Gleason CPKC holiday train stop is scheduled for December 8th this year, and event planning is underway. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions from council?
If there are no questions, I'll move that council accepts the October 2024 Community and Development Services Report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion, questions? I will call the question. And that's carried. We'll move on to 8.32, Fire and 911 Dispatch Service Options.
Good morning. Council Sherry again with Administration to present the Fire and 911 Dispatch Service Options Report, which is found on page 304 of the agenda package. At the October 1st, 2024 Council meeting, Council passed Resolution CM 2024-10-21, directing directing administration to provide a report on fire and 911 dispatch service options and associated costs. Today, I'll present an overview of the current dispatch services, alternative providers, and options for Council's consideration. Our current fire dispatch services is provided by WADEMSA, Wheatland and Adjacent Districts Emergency Medical Services Association. They are locally operated and provide the following services: call taking and dispatching, which is processing emergency calls and dispatching of fire and emergency services; resource management, allocating vehicles and departments based on incident details; EMS coordination for fire and medical responses when needed; and incident communication, ensuring clear communication throughout the response. The cost for this service is $8 per capita. Based on our population of approximately 8,738, the total cost in 2023 was $69,904. A comparative analysis of dispatch providers included Red Deer, Foothills Regional Services Commission, and Calgary's 911 Emergency Center. Red Deer's 911 Emergency Communication Center has a solid reputation, serves central Alberta as well as some nearby municipalities, and is known to be reliable in urban and rural areas. They provide 911 call answering. They have an IAED, which is an international standard for fire call taking, 24/7 operation, incident reports, mutual aid notifications, etc. The cost, depending on the service level provided, ranges from $2.40 to $4.50 per capita. Foothills Regional Services Commission works with 13 municipal partners servicing a population of approximately 127,000. They provide 911 call answering, fire resource dispatch, peace officer monitoring, which is optional, time tracking, data reporting, and their cost ranges between $3 and $3.50 per capita, again, depending on the service level provided. City of Calgary 911 Emergency Service. They serve Calgary and surrounding municipalities and are known for high standards and ongoing training. They provide real-time coordination, advanced call handling, computer-aided dispatch systems, as well as local tracking. Their cost at the high end is approximately $6.65 per capita and will vary depending on the service level. Options for Council's consideration today is: 1, continue with WADEMSA. This option maintains a familiar local partnership. However, the $8 per capita may not be the most cost-effective solution. Or 2, explore new regional partnerships, partnering with providers like Red Deer 911 or Foothills Regional Service Commission could offer cost savings and potentially enhance service capabilities. Both alternatives offer competitive rates, proven reliability, and fire dispatch services. Thank you. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for the report. Any questions? No questions? I realize it's a political hot potato of some sort, but when you see the costs of what they are, I sat on WADEMSA for a year. And I know the number when it came forward for $8 per capita was not really based on anything. It was just a number. From what I've heard in recent negotiations with AHS, they're actually wanting to find, one of their problems is they're saying they're subsidizing our dispatch. That's public information. So that number may not even be sustainable. It may go up even more. So it's something that is very, we have to look at it. So it's here. It's not the most fun thing in the world to do, but it's what we're tasked to do.
So I assume that WADEMSA was formed because of a desire for improved service levels from whatever it might have been before. Honestly, I don't know the history of it, but I'm making the assumption, and I'd like somebody to confirm, I guess, that is it that we wanted our own service so that when people call in and say they live in a certain area in the county, that the dispatcher would kind of have an idea of where that is? Is that the intention of having our own service, or do we know how it kind of came to be? Sorry, we look to our senior member of council.
I can, if you want, or, okay. I don't know what year Wademza was formed. 30 plus years ago. I think Rob's been CAO for 30 years, I think, when I was on the board. It started out as a doctor in town's station wagon. They eventually got an ambulance, which was donated by a family from the Standard area. Dispatch come with, that was before even 911 existed. So they needed dispatch to people to phone so they get the ambulance out. So they started it up at dispatch. Eventually they got more ambulances and it grew, and they got a haul. So county got addresses about, say, 10 years ago. Before that time, it was 4 miles east of the 9 Mile Corner. Oh, was that the 11 Mile Corner? Because different areas of the county call it a different number. Or Hammer Hill or Boot Hill. There's numerous things that only people in the county know. So that was important at the time for ambulance and fire departments. The county moved ahead and got the address things, and it made it easier for the ambulance to get out. At the time, it was mostly for the ambulance. The dispatch was a great help for the county. The town of Strathmore had addressing. It wasn't as important for Strathmore, but they stayed on. That was part of Wademza. And at the time, when we were operating with Wademza and we owned our own ambulances and we were paying for the paramedics, there was $2 set aside for dispatch. Now that $2 was just maybe a fee pulled out of the air. But since the province took over ambulance services 15 years ago, that's the only money that Wademza gets in, and their only expense for employees is dispatch. They got a good handle on how much dispatch costs. They got a good handle because any equipment for dispatch is just dispatch. You can't put it on the contract. They know that, and they know future costs. In recent years, the government has changed call answer 911. Everybody's got a cell phone. Everybody pays a fee. If you look at your bill for call answer 911 on a cell phone, the province was more or less not sharing that with all the call systems. They have been transferring that money to call centers to help pay for the upgrade of the equipment. Fine. So you're asking, why is it $8 and that's how much it costs? Why do we need it? When we lost control of our ambulances, ambulance from Strathmore to Hazar, 45 minutes. The fire departments, before the fire departments, there was first aid groups that would be called out, first responders, and they would go get a call and they would go to these different sites, wait for the ambulance and help. Eventually, fire departments took it over, and they get dispatched to go out. If it's a heart attack, car accident, they get dispatched and go out. So when we lost the dispatch for ambulances, and it went to Calgary, and then it was taken over by AHS, I think still in Calgary, doesn't matter where their office is. The deal was when you phone call 911, Strathmore gets the call and they ask if fire, police, or ambulance, and you say ambulance, they hit a button and the call gets rerouted into Calgary to the dispatch center. The dispatch center there takes down the information, talks to the person, finds out it's a car accident on Highway 1 on the hill at Clooney, say, and they talk, and so then they got to dispatch an ambulance, so they have a different system. They know where all the ambulances are, and they'll pick a close one. Maybe it comes out of the hall here, or maybe Brooks is driving down the road, but they'll dispatch an ambulance to that location. That takes however long it takes, 5-10 minutes. Then they were to dispatch the local fire department to get there and offer assistance. Sometimes they would forget, a lot of the times, or they got busy and they wouldn't get it done, and the fire trucks would arrive, the ambulance is gone, say. That happened a lot, or they never got the call in the first place. And that was happening in town in Strathmore as well. So when I was on the board, and I believe they're still doing it, correct me if I'm wrong, if the dispatch person that answers the call wasn't busy, they would ghost the call. They would listen on. And as soon as they heard there's a car accident on the hill at Clooney, they would dispatch the standard fire department or whoever was closer that does rescue. And that would get there right away. And it was no different than in Strathmore. There's documented cases of a half hour somebody would have to wait from making a 911 call in Strathmore to get an ambulance. It took them a half hour. And there was no fire truck dispatched to go get it. Everybody was busy, but it's that responsibility of AHS to make sure that first responder is dispatched. So it's an important part, not so much of the fire anymore, but for the health and welfare of our citizens, that those fire trucks get out there, because they're all trained for first aid. They all carry oxygen. I don't know how many are first responders, paramedics. I know Rosebud has a number of people trained to be paramedics that are just firefighters and they have other jobs who went and took the training because they seen the need. That call answer Wademza is a vital part for us in the country, and it was even shown in Strathmore. Now, I don't know how busy the ambulances are now. I don't know, I'm not on the board. I would refrain from making, I would vote in favor of accepting his information. But before we make any decision, I would ask our fire chiefs for comment on what they would like. They know what the costs are. I would so much go as that our board representatives bring this up at a Wademza meeting and see what the board has to say. But I would think if the board loses dispatch, what's left? Because the ambulance is contracted out. They could just say, what are we doing here? We'll just go provincial and give it to the province, but dispatch to me, living in rural Alberta, including the town of Strathmore, with the ambulance situation, the wait times, it is critical, in my opinion. I just heard, I won't mention any names, this was a person that lived in Strathmore. They fell, hit their head, an older person. She assumed she hit her head. She was out for, she figured at least a half hour, laying underneath her nightstand. So how'd you get there? You fell. Phoned the ambulance and told her that she's been out, hit her head, has heart things. And the dispatch routed her to 811 to call a health nurse instead of getting an ambulance there. I don't know what's going on, but it's always a constant fight. That is what I know, and I'm against doing anything against Wedemza. It's been a iconic landmark in the county. At one time, we were viewed as one of the best in the province until they took our ambulances away. But I would definitely go out to the community and see what the fire chiefs think, what the board thinks. Because if the county pulls out, dispatch will more than double. It puts the rest of the members at a huge disadvantage.
Sorry, were you next or no? No? Okay, Councillor Reichert.
I'm new to the Wedemza board, and I've been encouraged to ask questions. So I believe the next meeting is on November 18th. So if you guys would email me any questions that you're concerned with, I will be more than happy to bring them up and discuss them with the board.
So I have a question from administration. These concerns and all that kind of operational stuff, could that not be, if you did hire somebody else, just saying, would that not be in an operational agreement? You could say, this is the process we want, this is what's going to happen. Anything deviating from that, there will be repercussions for this.
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, yes, the service level provided, and I even went back to look at the 2019 presentation that was given by Red Deer 911, but they do coordinate that it's not just dispatching for fire, but for emergency medical things when you want to dispatch both. They communicate both, would work with our rural firefighters. And some of the concerns have been addressed over the years with the change in technology for accessing rural areas that are remote to understand how to get someone there quickly. And with the automated CAD systems that are used, whether it's a firefighter going for a medical distress call or a fire call, because they get called out for both, they're dispatched from whatever is the closest place, and they monitor if a second vehicle, they can track and see. The firefighter also has on there, whether they're using their phones or a tablet, it shows them the shortest route to get to where they're going. And so they're constantly updating as to if another vehicle's there quicker, coming back, can go there. So they do look at ways to coordinate both, getting, like if it's a fire incident and you need emergency medical team there as well, they do that type of coordination for each type of incident command and have fuller capacity for 24/7 coverage.
Thank you. I look at it as how it started out was, yes, for sure, you needed to know what was from so-and-so corner and things like that, but technology has definitely caught up, and it's so much. And the problem with technology is it's very expensive. And for a smaller operation to keep up with that technology, it gets very expensive. Whereas if you're in a part of a bigger system, you get the most advanced, up to date, because the bigger group is paying for things. We're seeing it. I believe we have some reports coming for some of our communications equipment. We're seeing that now. Like we invested in a smaller thing and now we're realizing, oh, it's not going to work. You need to go on a bigger one. That's the reality of it. We see it with IT. We see it with everything else we do. So the technology is there to basically meet all the needs that everybody has. Does anybody like change? Absolutely not. Nobody likes change. But it is something I think that we have to look for and always look at different ways to do things. I'll ask if AHS happens to take over, the ambulances can dispatch stand on its own. I just don't see it. It would be way more expensive. There's a building, there's all kinds of stuff. So go ahead.
Wademza doesn't dispatch any ambulances. That's all done by.
I realize that.
When I was on the board, got to the $8, we were struggling with equipment. The future was you should be able to text your call into call answer 911. We didn't have that kind of equipment. Nobody did. It's very expensive. But they were committed to get it. And at the same time, call answer 911, the province started funding more out of the cell phone. And that increased dramatically at Wademza. I don't know what it is now or if it's still increasing. But was hopeful when I was there that in the future we'd be able to lower the $8 because of the fees that we would get from the cell phones. Should be, maybe, hopefully pay for it in the future. I don't know if that's still a possibility or not. That's why you got to go and find out at the board meeting what the future looks like for funding and just where you're at. As it was hopeful we'd be able to decrease that $8. I can tell you so many stories from being on the board as this isn't the place.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
I think if we look at this, I know we need to be fiscally responsible, but the total cost for this is $69,904. Even if we were to save half of that, we'd save $34,000. Compared to what we spend, for example, just on the lakes of Muirfield, that's a drop in the bucket, and this serves the entire county, including the lakes of Muirfield. I don't think we need to have a discussion on this, and I think we just stay with Wademza.
Well, we'll agree to disagree. I'm not going to argue with you about Muirfield. I know you have a thorn in your side about that. That's fine. We're here to do due diligence for the whole county. I've sat on Wademza. I've listened to what's going on. I know there's some maturity coming, and I think it'd be foolish of us not to look somewhere else, to basically have a backup. Not saying we're going to do anything, but to have other options available in the event of, and to look and to be proactive, I think is very important. So I'll make the motion that we explore new regional partnerships that could reduce costs while maintaining or improving service quality, both offer competitive rates and proven capabilities in fire dispatch services. Just get the motion, staff put the time together to do this. It's not the first time we've looked at it. And I think we should at least look at it. We don't have to go down the road of signing it, but if we don't know, we don't know. Go ahead.
I'm going to vote against that motion. I think it's at a step. Before we start going out looking for information, I think we should investigate what you actually got here for a service first. So you'd be able, when you're asking for the information, you'll be better equipped to ask the right questions. How do you provide the same service? Right? You don't know what you're asking for until you know what you got here. So find out what you got here. Ask the fire departments, do they like the assistance they get from Wademza? Would it be possible to get it from Red Deer? Ask them their comments about different dispatch things when they're out in the field. Get the information first. Leave it up to the people that are on the board to get it done. And if you need a presentation here from them, fine. But get the information first before you start going out looking for others to give you a service that you don't even know what you have now. There's nothing wrong with getting educated, but I think you should get educated before you start looking for others.
I'll remind you, I sat on the board for a year. I asked questions. I didn't get a lot of answers. There was no board motion to spend $160,000 at Wademza. Zero. It was just done. So I let my motion stand. Any further discussion?
I just think that that's good takeaway for administration, that when they're exploring, they can certainly talk to our fire staff to see what their impression of service is in other areas as well.
I'll call the question.
I'll call for a recorded vote.
That's fine, recorded vote. Sorry, you have to type it up. So, okay, yeah, let me read. So there was an option for consideration, and I kind of, without naming names, I said explore new regional partnerships, partnering with another regional dispatch provider to reduce costs while maintaining or improving service quality.
Why don't you read what she has on hers? Oh, good.
Oh, sorry. Council explore new regional partnerships that offer competitive rates and proven capabilities in fire dispatch services while reducing costs of maintaining or improving service quality. That's excellent.
Now, just before this goes to vote here, because it's a recorded vote, I want to make sure that this just makes sense. This is just fiscal responsibility. And I'm going to be going to the budget meeting, and I'm going to be, or the next Wademza meeting, sorry, and I'm going to be asking questions like, what does the budget for dispatch look going forward? Like, what's this year's budget? What's the budget plan? What's the 2-year plan? What's the 5-year plan? But I don't see any problem with me voting for this, because this is just asking for more information. I'm not saying yay or nay. And then in the meantime, I'm going to be, so I'm recorded vote or no recorded vote, I am going to be voting for this, and it does not in any way affect the questions I'm going to be asking at Wademza or my job at Wademza. So just to make that clear.
Sorry, staff.
Through the Deputy Reeve to Council, we will include the comments from Councillor Kester as to what we get from Wademza so that it's apples to apple comparison or just what would be more from another service provider, so council can make a fulsome decision.
Go ahead.
I appreciate that comment from staff, but the motion doesn't say anything about educating ourselves about what Wademza, our present provider, provides. It just asks explore new partnerships. I would like to have something in there at the very least that we
explore and compare
to what we have now, or
I have no problem saying explore and compare. Yeah.
I still think you're putting the cart before the horse.
So the motion would read that council explore and compare new regional partnerships that offer competitive rates, da, 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 da. Okay. This isn't the first time we've looked at this. This was looked at a number of years ago. I believe there was a previous report. The disparity in prices hasn't changed. It's in fact, our rates have gone up considerably since then from our provider, which happens to be Wademza. So, and I've never seen a rate go down. Any further discussion? Call the question. It's a recorded vote, and I'll read it out after. So that's carried. We have for it, Eichert, Clausen, Bigger, Laprise. Against, Kester and Larson. Link is absent. That's carried. And we will break for lunch.
I think the other report just needs to be.
Okay, sorry, as information, yes.
And then we'll deal with that one first.
I'll move the Fire and 911 Dispatch Service Options Report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. And that's carried.
And then just a point of clarity for the chair to consider. So we have an appointment at 12 for an in-camera kind of lunch, just general lunch and
Because of this.
with Mr. Paul Bergman.
Yes.
So
I will make a motion to move us in camera under FOIP section
25.
25, land legal.
Sure.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll call the question.
I have a question. Do I call into the same number?
Just waiting for the vote to come in. That's carried. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll make the motion to come out of in camera at 1:12. Call the question. That's you. I was like, it's contagious. That's carried. Just a note, Councillor Bigger was unable to continue on with the meeting this afternoon, so she gave us notice of that. So we'll continue without two councillors present. So we are on agenda item. Where are we at? 8.33 Fire Services Mutual Aid Agreement, Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County.
Good afternoon, Council. Sherry Bowers with Administration presenting the Fire Services Mutual Aid Agreement between the Town of Strathmore and Wheatland County, which is found on page 309 of the agenda package. To give a brief background, Wheatland County Council initially approved this agreement in December 2024. When the agreement was subsequently presented to Strathmore Council, they approved it with two amendments. One, updating the language from manpower to personnel for inclusivity, I can almost pronounce that. And two, revising the cost recovery clause in Schedule A to provide clarity on when charges would apply. The original language read, there will be no billing for fire services between parties unless the event escalates to a provincial disaster. Then the billing will be charged out at 100% of actual costs as long as provincial funding is available. It was amended to read, there will be no cost recovery between parties unless the event or events escalates to the jurisdiction declaring a state of local emergency or the province of Alberta declares a provincial disaster response where the jurisdiction qualifies for disaster recovery funding through DRP application. At the August 2024 Council meeting, Council reviewed these amendments and requested clarification to ensure that the charges would only apply if provincial or federal disaster recovery funds were available. Administration has since confirmed with Strathmore representatives that that is the intent. The mutual aid agreement, now amended and clarified, is valid for a 4-year term. It outlines available services, procedures, and invoking mutual aid, command and control over emergency responses, and the responsibilities of each party. With these details confirmed, the amended mutual aid agreement is ready for Council's consideration. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation and available for questions.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Well, I think in the words of our esteemed Prime Minister, that should be person power.
Council's wishes.
I'll move that council approves the fire services mutual aid agreement between the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County and authorizes the Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer to sign the agreement.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Let's just say thank you to staff for getting the clarifications for us. Appreciate it. Seeing nothing, I'll call the question. We're on eScribe. And that's carried. We'll move on to the intermunicipal collaboration framework, the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County.
Good afternoon, Council. Stefan from Administration presenting. This item is the Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework with the Town of Strathmore. An Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework, or an ICF, is an agreement between two or more municipalities that provides for integrated strategic planning, delivery, and funding of intermunicipal services. This is required by the Municipal Government Act, and Municipal Government Act also has a number of sections that are required to be in an ICF. These include establishing processes for intermunicipal cooperation, preparing new shared service agreements, and having a process for dispute resolution. The other thing that must be included are existing shared services. So those are identified in the ICF, those being the Recreation Cost Sharing Agreement and the Mutual Aid Agreement for delivery of emergency management services. So Wheatland County staff have been working with our counterparts at the town of Strathmore. A draft was circulated in September 2024 to council. Only one amendment arose from that. It was a minor edit, just more clearly defining the scope of disputes to be considered within the dispute resolution section. So other than that, town of Strathmore adopted theirs, similar exact same document we have here, on November 6th. So pending council's decision today, it will be signed and then go into effect on January 1st, 2025. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll just make a comment. I want to say thank you very much to the administration, both from the county and the town, for being able to push this forward. It was the meetings that we were at were unproductive, and I'm very happy that administrations have been able to carry this forward and come with an agreement. Council's wishes? I'll make the motion. The council approves an intermunicipal collaboration framework between the town of Strathmore and Wheatland County and authorize the REEV and CAO to sign the agreement for a term of 70 years, no, 7 years from January 1, 2025 to December 31, 2031. Any discussion? Call the question. That is carried. Thank you. We have a 8.35 request to refund 2024 municipal taxes on roll number 3598100. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Dave from Administration. The report on page 334 in the agenda package, the operator of High Eagle Campground has provided a request that Council consider refunding the municipal tax portions of roll number 3598100. The parcel is owned by Wheatland County and becomes taxable as it's leased to a third party or as a business. The sub-leasee has requested the following breakdown of expenses: plumbing for $250 and tree maintenance and removal for $1,150. The total submitted receipts were $3,400, and the request is in the letter for the full amount of the 2024 municipal commercial tax amount of $3,596.24. The request is consistent with the MOU and past tax in lieu requests from the sub-leasee. Administration is recommending the tree maintenance removal amount of $3,150 be considered for the refund and not the plumbing for the operator's washroom buildings. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions? Go ahead.
Why just $3,150?
Just $3,150 because that was work that was completed on the lands, the trees and the maintenance, and the repairs were on the washroom facilities, which are the operator's personal property, or the operator's property, not the county's property.
Okay. Council's wishes?
I'll move the county approves the refund of 2024 municipal non-residential taxes of the amount of $31.50 for roll 3598100 pursuant to sections 347 sub 1 sub B of the Municipal Government Act.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Any discussions on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. That is carried. We'll move on to item 8.41, Transportation and Agricultural Report. Mr. Bullock.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the October 2024 Transportation and Agriculture Department report, beginning on page 340 of the agenda. Just a couple things to note that may be of particular interest to councils. The Goldfinch Raw Water Line project has been tendered. The tender was originally scheduled to close November 14th. That date has been extended to November 26th. Just because requests from multiple proponents. On page 341, it does note that the speargrass lighting, the long-awaited speargrass lighting on the highway, is being installed. My understanding is that project is now complete and the lights are now installed. If council has any other questions regarding the report, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions of admin? Council's wishes.
I'll move council accepts the October 2024 Transportation and Agricultural Department report as information.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Any discussion? I will call the question. That's carried. Thank you. Move on to 8.42, 2025 Agricultural Service Board Structure and Bylaw Review.
Through the chair, good afternoon, council. George Bloom from administration, here to talk about the 2025 Agricultural Service Board Structure and Bylaw Review. Please bear with me, I have a bit of a frog in my throat today. Just going to talk about the introduction and background. So the Wheatland County Agricultural Service Board is appointed by council, and according to the bylaw, it must consist of 5, 7, or 9 voting members with at least 3 councillor members. Annually, the board elects a chairperson and vice chairperson from among council members at the first ASB meeting of the year, usually held in January. During the October 15th, 2024 Wheatland County organizational meeting, council passed the following resolution to approval that Wheatland County appoint Reeve Link, Councillor Laprise, Councillor Bigger, Councillor Eichert, Councillor Kester, Councillor Larson to the Wheatland County Agricultural Service Board for the 24-25 term in accordance with the bylaw 2024-19. Upon passing of the above resolution, the ASB consisted of 9 members, and 6 councillor board members listed, and 3 members at large, Sandra Desmet, Ryan Greer, and Jason Wilson. On October 31st, Sandra Desmet's term of service on the board expired, leaving a board position under the 9-member board structure. Member-at-large appointments are considered by Wheatland County Council based on received applications, and the member-at-large must reside in or own property within the county. The term of service is 3 years with the possibility of reappointment. You can see the following chart. Both Ryan and Jason, their term expiry is November 21st, 2026. So the board member appointment, leading up to the recent expiry of the member-of-large term of service, administration posted advertisements to solicit a member-at-large from any interested individuals who may be qualified to serve on the board in accordance with the bylaw. Applications are received by administration and are available for council review. In the interest of privacy protection, under FOIPAC, deliberations by council about the applicants and information contained within the application should be done in camera. With one board position currently vacant and the term of 2 presently serving members at large not expiring until 26, council may choose to fill the vacant position with a member of council or with a 3rd member at large for a total of 9 board members. One potential ASB bylaw revision for council's consideration is the expiry date of the member at large terms of service. As part of ongoing efforts towards continual improvement, administration intermittently reviews and recommends to council possible bylaw updates with the foundational objective of improving the quality and efficiency of county operations to service its ratepayers and services for ratepayers. To aid in the process of annually establishing an ASB member structure appointments during the county's organizational meeting, administration recommends that the term of member at large appointments always expire on the same date as the county's annual organization meeting. By doing this, administration can post advertisements to solicit county residents and landowners to submit member-at-large application forms prior to the county's organizational meeting. With this information in hand prior to and during the organizational meeting, council would be in a better position to make the final decision regarding the size of the board, the number of member-at-large positions on the board, and the individual board members' appointments during each organizational meeting. To ensure member-at-large appointments always expire at the county's organizational meeting, sentence 5.11 of the ASB bylaw could be revised as follow, with the added text shown in green and deleted, crossed out in red. You can see that. Policy approval and authority was another item that had been previously discussed. Sentence 8.1F in the ASB bylaw speaks to the board's authority delegated by council in relation to ASB policy development as follows. The board shall promote and develop agricultural policies to meet the needs of the municipality. Administration finds it unclear whether the original intent of this clause was to grant ASB the authority to both develop and approve agricultural policies, or if the final approval should remain solely with council. To clarify, it is recommended to revise this clause if it is desired to keep the final policy approval with council. The following bylaw amendment is an option. You can see that one. And then alternatively, council may choose to delegate the approval authority to the ASB for agricultural policies. A potential bylaw revision that more clearly delegates this authority could read as follows. And that concludes my report. I am available here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? I'm assuming this was discussed at ASB.
Generally speaking, yep.
Okay.
So I guess the first question is, so we could either appoint Deputy Reeve Clausen back on the board if he chose to, or we have an applicant that has submitted a resume or an application. So that's our first. I'm curious if you'd be interested in going back, I guess.
I would, but I don't want to take anybody out to do that. My intention of being away from the board was because I had a really good person that was in my area that was a young producer, which I think is been a very active member of the board. But being with the division lines being redrawn in the future, I don't want to start out with the person, whoever represents this, if it's me or somebody else, yet not being able to do that. So
I don't believe there's anything in our bylaw that says that the representation has to be one per. Am I wrong? Yeah. I don't think there is a requirement that if somebody in your area sits as a member of large that you can sit.
I'd love to be on the board, but it's up to you guys. Of course, I'd vote for myself. Maybe. You'll see how that goes. But I mean, yeah, whatever you get, honestly. The last year was really busy with other boards with this energy from waste. That's winding up, so I can see it have an opportunity to do stuff. So
I'll make the motion and we can debate it, that council appoint Deputy Reeve Clausen to the Wheatland County Ag Service Board for the 2024-25 term in accordance with bylaw 2024-28.
Motion on the floor. Any debate? Questions? I'll just go straight to call a question, because that tells how people want to vote. Call the question. Or should I abstain from voting? I don't think I can in that regard. Just like an organizational meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be the same as an organization meeting.
That's carried. Thank you. Any further action with this? Okay.
I really like administration's suggestion that we have change the term of our members at large so that it aligns with our organization meeting. That way, it's just a little more, it's so awkward right now with people like coming on and off at different times when we're not at an organization meeting setting. So I'm just trying to find that one. Here we are. So I'm not sure. So I will move to amend sentence 5.11 of the ASB bylaw to read, members at large shall be appointed for a term of up to 3 years, with their term expiring at the start of Wheatland County's organization meeting, held within the 3rd year following their initial appointment. Members at large may be reappointed to the board upon expiration of their term.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Just waiting for it to come up here.
Question, if resolution 2, does not resolution 2 then cover what is? It doesn't have to be specific because that is in resolution 2?
Oh, sorry, I maybe
So resolution 2 in the package, did you see that? Council direct administration to prepare and present council's consideration draft revision of the bylaw. Recommend revisions as presented and discussed.
Well, do we want it to come back again, or do we just want to approve it here? Yeah. Well,
You're the chair of ASB.
can we do it?
It's a bylaw, so it would need 3 readings.
Oh, it would need, okay. So then, all right.
But is there anything else that's being missed by admin other than that very specific?
Perhaps, just through the chair, perhaps if council does have any further edits, maybe they can just let us know and then we can bring it back to the next council meeting. I don't think there's an ASB meeting in between now and, or is there? January 15th. So we still do have 2 council meetings in between now and the next ASB meeting. So if council did want to provide edits to the bylaw, they could just verbalize them now or bring them to the next council meeting. Then we could get it 3 readings done and have it for January.
Okay, then I would also recommend that administration adopt the bylaw revision to say the board shall promote, develop, and hold the authority to approve agricultural policies and programs that address the needs of municipalities' local agricultural sector. This way, like I just think all of us sit on the Ag Service Board, and I don't see why we couldn't approve our own policies.
Makes sense.
I think, to me, when it's written that we would promote and develop policies, that to me, I kind of assumed that meant you'd also approve them, but it's good to have clarity there.
So are we changing that motion or is it just staying the way it is?
No, sorry, I will reword my motion to say that council direct administration to prepare and present for council's consideration a draft revision of the Wheatland County Ag Service Board bylaw 2024-28 with the recommended revisions as I've presented here.
Perfect. It's always hard after lunch. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. That's carried. I'll move on to
Thank you, George, for your work on this.
8.43 Agricultural Service Board Tour 2026. Go ahead.
Through the chair, George Bloom from administration here to present on the Agricultural Service Board Tour 2026 item. Some background, so at the October 2nd, 2024 ASB meeting, the board passed the following resolution: that the board direct administration to draft a terms of reference for an Agricultural Service Board Summer Tour Committee under ASB, and that they present a request to Wheatland County Council for allocation of funds for a consultant that they draft under Wheatland County procurement policy, a hiring process for a consultant to bring a business case back to the ASB for the 2026 ASB Summer Tour in the county. The Wheatland County ASB was originally scheduled to host the ASB Summer Tour for the first time in 2022, but it was canceled. No ASB Summer Tours have been conducted since 2018, and attached to this report is a document outlining the responsible counties that hosted the past ASB Summer Tours. So perhaps for some of you, that document is a blast from the past. Some discussion is if the ASB Summer Tour is approved to proceed, an Agricultural Service Board tour coordinator would play a crucial role in organizing the tour, serving as a coordinator and point of contact with potential tour stop operators and registrants. We talk about some characteristics of that particular position should hold, and how that this position would report to the manager of Ag and Environment and would regularly interact with the Agricultural Service Board Summer Tour Committee if it is established. The planned initial task for the ASB-TC is to formulate and present a comprehensive conceptual tour plan at the January ASB meeting for the board's consideration. The plan will assess the feasibility of the tour, covering financial options, tour stops, catering, entertainment, accommodations, and registration options. If the plan and proposed budget projection is approved, the tour coordinator will proceed with the work of planning and organizing the tour to be held in the summer of 2026. The coordinator's term of employment with the county would end with the conclusion of this ASB summer tour. It's estimated that the cost to the county for the initial task to formulate the conceptual tour plan in 2024 will be approximately $7,000, and that the cost for the tour coordinator for the work required to be completed in 2025 and 2026 would be approximately $55,000 and $35,000 respectively. If directed by council, administration will provide line items in the proposed projected 25-26 ASB budget to support the ASB summer tour. The current estimated total is $342,000, which includes a $97,000 for the tour coordinator as noted above. Registration revenues projected to be at about $175,000. So the cost to host this ASB summer tour would be around $167,000 as it stands for now. But sponsorship opportunities and other funding mechanisms would also be considered and pursued to further offset cost to the county, and we would be presenting that to the January 15th ASB meeting as well. You can see we have talked a little bit about costing this out, so there's some preliminary costs in there that we've talked about for a while, and I'm available for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion, motions?
I'll move the council approve an additional $7,000 to Wheatland County Agricultural Service Board 2024 budget to fund the hiring of an Agricultural Service Board tour coordinator.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That's carried. There's another motion possibly. Go ahead.
I'll move that council direct administration to allocate funds for an Ag Service Board tour coordinator in the proposed 2025 interim Agriculture Service Board budget for consideration by council during the budget review process.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any further questions for clarification? I'll just make comment. There hasn't been one in so long. There's no way you could screw this up. People be so happy to have one. So yeah, I'll call the question. That's carried. Sorry, let me get done. So we have the one remaining item that we asked to get back to. So the Drumheller Health Foundation membership inquiry response. So in communication with our CAO, we look at it as an appointment to a board. So in 2023, it was brought forward and defeated. So there hasn't been a motion in 2024. So if you wish to put a motion forward today or put a notice of motion in, I'd ask which direction you'd like to go, sir. Sure. Do you just compensate for the trip, or are you looking to put them on the board? Is that was the discussion there, right?
Yes, so through the chair, just so council, to provide the most clarity, I think, and I don't want to put any, I'm just trying to understand the situation. So they responded outlining that there's public members and elected officials onto the Drumheller and Area Health Foundation. So we have one member at large now, Mary Marshman, and then, so is your intention to appoint Councillor Larson to the, as a county representative, and then further to have that, both those positions as with per diem and mileage, so added to the organizational meeting in the future? Yeah, okay. So that's what's on the docket for council.
I think traditionally the member at large is voluntary.
Through the chair. Yes, through the chair, that's correct. So former councillor and Reeve Ben Armstrong, he was on that board for a long time. I don't think it ever came to council for appointment, and that's kind of where this whole, I feel, issue was kind of come up, because Ben did serve on the board for 30, I think a long 30 years or something. And it never came to council, which is, you know, it worked. It was fine. There's no issues for sure. And then I think now that it's just come to council, this is where the miscommunication is. So I think there's two prongs or two requests to Councillor Kester's items. One, adding it as a committee list item, like that will be appointed at the annual organizational committee, I believe. And then the second one would be for paid per diem and mileage. I think that covers everything, right? Yeah. Okay.
And also when Ben was on too, Gary Crapson was a member at large for even longer than Ben, I think. Like, we've always been there, but very low turnover rate for sure.
So looking at the letter here, so looks like Starland just has one, which is a councillor. Town of Drumheller has a councillor appointed by municipal designate, so they have a municipal. We have one, which is a volunteer. Nehill County doesn't have anybody, so it's kind of, yeah. And how does the voting go? Does each person have a vote? Do we have that information? Is there voting items? Is it just discussion?
Yeah, each person, I have a vote there now. But I vote as myself, not as Wheatland County, because I'm not representing the Wheatland County there.
Okay, but we just appoint.
No.
But we just appointed a volunteer as a representative, so how does that work then?
Well, if you read the letter, it says, oh, just a minute. If you read the letter, it says, historically municipalities are to appoint one municipal designate, either elected councillor or member at large per area. In turn, those designates will appoint one member at large within their municipality. That's pretty crystal clear.
But we just had a motion where we designated a volunteer to do that. Did we not?
No.
To be the member at large.
Remember it.
Okay. Put forward the motion you wish.
Add it to our committee list at organizational and to add Councillor Larson right now for the rest of this year. As per area etiquette, I guess. I don't know what word you would want to put in there.
So I'm confused. We're going to put this on the organizational meeting that goes to the organizational meeting, and then we're going to add somebody right now.
Yeah, because we haven't got anybody right now.
But the organizational meeting won't be in for another 12 months.
Yeah, so we can add them right now. And then in 11 months, we can have it at the organizational and it'll be there.
I'll just wait to see how the motion comes forward and crafted so we can vote on it.
Just a question to council, specifically Councillor Kester. Would you do two motions just to separate them out? It might just make a little bit more sense. Yeah.
So which one would you like first, Councillor Custer?
I'd like to add it to the organizational first.
Okay. Just wait for Shannon to get it up. So there's a motion on the floor that council add the Drumheller Health Foundation to the committee list of organizational meeting in October 2025. Is that correct what you want? Yep. Any further discussion? Not, I'll call the question. That is carried.
I'll make a motion to appoint Councillor Larson to the Drumheller Foundation for the remainder of this term.
And then just to make sure we're crystal clear, the per diems and mileage included, okay, for meeting attendance.
Just wait for the motion to come up and I'll read it out again.
This is, I know when you look at the letter, it looks a little bit, Nehill doesn't send anybody, but you got to think that Nehill built its own health facility beside their municipal building. They have doctors there that I think are rent-free in that building to try and keep doctors in their area. Plus they have a hospital in Three Hills too. So they're heavily committed to the welfare of their residents too.
So we have a motion put forth by Councillor Kester to appoint Councillor Laurison to the Drumheller Area Health Foundation Committee for the remainder of the 2024-2025 term. Okay, sorry, we're rejigging this. With per diem, paid per diem and mileage. Adding to that. Everybody's clear? Any further discussion? Call the question. That's carried. Okay, so we're done the regular agenda, correct?
Yes, so just the in-camera portion now.
So I will move us in camera at 1:50 p.m. I will call the question. (1:51 p.m. now). That's carried. Are we in here? Welcome back, everyone. I'll move us out of in-camera at 3:18 p.m. Do we need to vote by, are we going to use
Call is being recorded.
the system on the computer that I can't remember the name at the top of my head?
eScribe.
eScribe. That I'll have to get into.
Oh, baby. eScribe, yes.
Yep.
Got it. Yes, we can vote on eScribe.
Okay, everybody good for voting on eScribe? They're already ahead of us? Okay, perfect. So call the question for out of in-camera. That's carried. So we had some business arising from in-camera. The first one we'll deal with, I'll just say the radio. Whoever wants to make a motion. Resolution 1. Would have been a paper document. No, there's no motion on the screen. I can make it if I have it in front of me. I'll make the motion that council directs administration to proceed with discussions with rural fire associations regarding the radio system options presented in camera. Any discussion? Call the question. That's carried. We had an appointment to Wheatland Housing Management Board.
I'll make the motion that council appoint Debbie Wakeham as a Wheatland County Member at Large for the Wheatland Housing Management Body Board for the 2024-25 term ending October 24th, 2025.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Recorded vote, please.
Recorded vote is requested. Not a problem. Any other discussion? Okay, call the question. So that is carried. We have Councillor Eichert, Deputy Reeve Klassen and Laprise for, Councillor Kester and Councillor Laursen against. We have one more possible motion.
The council directs administration to enter into negotiations to draft a purchase and sales agreement for the remaining lands within Lakes of Muirfield and present the proposed agreement at a future meeting for council's consideration.
Motion before us. Just wondering, can we say a name? No? We're only directing to go one way, so why can't we say the name?
I don't know if we can or not. It is an RFP right now, and so there are still some discussions to see if an agreement can be made and bring that agreement back for council's consideration. So, but I don't know if it can.
Yeah, as soon as you guys can let us know if we can say the name, would be gratefully helpful. Thank you. So a motion on the floor. Any other questions, discussion? I'll call the question. Still can't see. It says carried. Turn green, so we're good. 5. Any other further business? I don't believe. If not, I conclude this meeting.